Hello. So this is Kyle Marshiku, he, her, Q, Eldritch entity that pretends to be your equal. Let's get to some happier background music. Yeah, I like that one. All right, so hello. World of Kiwi says, ahoy, hey, how's it going? Today my plan is to talk about Disco Elysium. It is a game I've been playing. It is a game I have loved. I really want to talk about it. However, there, uh, there was a lot of Homestuck related drama that happened over the past few days, so I figure I should talk about that. I figured with my successful Homestuck videos, the two of them, I felt like I should put out some type of statement. Not that most people care, but I care. I don't know. I think I'm right. Why make a video saying anything unless you think you're right? That's always a criticism that I never understood. People are like, "Ah, you think you're so right, don't you?" Yes, don't most people? Why do anything if you don't think you're right? Are you just saying you're insecure? Whatever. Anyway, uh, let's talk about Homestuck. So, all right. I am just going to have this running in the background. Again, I'm going to get to Disco Elysium after this, but this is just some drama that I wanted to talk about. So this is my video essay. I'm just going to have it running in the background so there's something in the background. So there has been some drama. Now, in my Homestuck Was Good actually video essay, I talked about the legacy of Homestuck and drama surrounding it. I made a deliberate effort to not point out specific names, in part because I didn't want to like send harassment towards any people if I ever did, if this did blow up, you know. But also because I wanted my video essay to kind of be the definitive video on why you should read Homestuck or watch it or whatever. I wanted it to be evergreen. And in light of all the drama, I think I succeeded in that. And I felt like if I had gone into the weeds about drama, it would have just like done a drama YouTube cycle. It would have only made people miserable, and I think it genuinely would have bogged down the whole point of the video. The video being that Homestuck is worth something regardless of all of this drama around it. So that's why I decided to mention the drama non-specifically, obliquely, like these examples on screen, like that's kind of the most it ever gets into. But recently, in the past few days, there was a whole bunch of Homestuck drama that I feel like I should say something, and sorry if I'm speaking slowly, just trying to pick my words carefully, you understand? Anyway, I don't feel like there is any utility in me just on my next stream, this stream, just giving my opinions frankly, even if that means using names. I don't want to put that kind of crap in my video, but I'm willing to talk about it. I don't feel a need to stay silent. So, in order to talk about it, I'll have to give context. I know that there's probably gonna be some Homestuck fans watching that don't agree with my takes. I would just ask that you be kind. Anyway, so around like here, hold on, let me go to the legacy section. Around like, what was it, 5 years at this point? No, it was like 2023, I think. A number of years ago, there was a oh no, yeah, yeah, 5 years ago, around 2020, there was a situation with Homestuck Squared, which was the sequel to Homestuck. It changed a lot of the status quo of the story. The characters got older. They were able to talk about like adult concepts more, and it was in the hands of a different writing team than Andrew Hussey had with the original comic. And A lot of people did not like the new direction. A lot of people took issue with the new creators specifically. I speak about this in the legacy section of my video. Uh, I think if you, I don't care what problems you have with the writers, honestly, I just genuinely don't. If you are going to excuse or downplay a transphobic harassment campaign, a queerphobic harassment campaign, I have no space for you. I don't care how much you didn't like writing or art. That's not an excuse. I know death threats are just a kind of a thing on the internet. Everyone gets death threats. But like I saw the harassment campaign. Some people will cite like, oh, like those creators, they said some mean things on the internet. Trust me, they weren't half as mean as some of the stuff that was being regularly said by the anti-fans. So I just don't think that was justified at all. And I think even if you're going to criticize them, don't downplay the harassment that was given. Anyway, I'm not going to talk about every little bit of drama, but that is the context for what would later happen where a, a YouTube creator, okay, a YouTube creator by the name of Sarah Z, her thing is that she makes these like niche cringe culture analyses or videos. I don't like Sarah Z. Uh, if you watched my top 60 video essays streams, you'll notice that hers did not appear in my listing, and that's just because I don't think she makes good videos, to be honest. I think she has a tendency to talk about niche subjects that the broader population doesn't really know about. That type of video essay of like, here's a little niche thing. Here, I'll tell you, you can learn more about it. So a lot of the people of her fans that like these subjects aren't personally familiar with them. And the consequence of that is you start to get a conflict, a schism between Sarah fans and the fans of whatever she's covering. So as a Homestuck fan, I could spot many errors in her Homestuck video that she would eventually release, which made me and every Homestuck I personally knew also not like the video. Now, there are, of course, people that claim to be both Sarah fans and Homestuck fans, and, you know, I would say take it with a grain of salt. It's clear that a lot of them have a preference towards one over the other. Now, and I've also spoken to a number of people that were fans of things besides Homestuck that she covered, and they also took issue with her videos. So I don't believe this is a Homestuck exclusive thing. I even remember watching her video on narcissism, and I honestly think I have a better understanding of narcissism than she does. So generally, not a fan. But, you know, that's fine. You don't have to be a fan of everybody. You might argue that some video essay you might argue that my criticism would apply to all video essays. But as I mentioned in my top 60 video essay stream, I really like a lot of those video essays, the ones I thought were genuinely good. And I think those are only enhanced, the good ones, by knowing about the subject. There are a lot of video essays where I would follow up on the subject. Like I remember Super Eye Patch Wolf's Fear and Hunger video essay. I followed up to learn more about fear and hunger, and I think that only like accentuated the enjoyment I got out of that video essay. I feel like knowledge about politics as well, because I really like political video essays. Knowing about the politics, this does not hamper my enjoyment. But there are video essays, like I believe Sarah Z's, where knowing about the subject actually kind of runs counter to enjoying the essay when you realize that the research just isn't there. And let's see, can I find the original Homestuck one? That is not the original Homestuck one. Now we're getting to other stuff. All right, I guess I will click on it. Let's scroll. Here's a brief history of Homestuck. So Sarah Z is not the only person that's made videos like this. There are a number of people that are like, oh, here's a history of Homestuck. And it was like a history of the drama of Homestuck. This is one thing I wanted to fix in my video. I wanted to actually talk about Homestuck itself. And I just felt like there wasn't really any of that happening online. This video, The Rise and Fall of Homestuck, I don't think is a very good video. There are a lot of points she makes about Homestuck that I think are factually inaccurate and a lot that are implicitly inaccurate. She uses multiple sources in this video, but one of the sources she uses is from a specific person. I think it better not to name this person because they aren't really a content creator. I guess that might be a bit debatable, but just to be safe. This person is a obsessive archivist. There are allegations of sexual impropriety around this person and stalking. I do not have evidence for these allegations, so I am not going to assert them as definitively true. I am mentioning them just because I have heard these allegations a lot, and I have heard them from people I trust personally, but I cannot attest to their veracity. It is clear, though, regardless, that the person is obsessive. And this person has posted many articles, literally has a website dedicated to trashing Homestuck. They would say it's justified, but that is what it is. And this is a source that Sarah uses in her video. She does present it as one of a few different options, but in the video says that she believes that account of the story over the other sources. She's leans in that direction, and you can tell by the way she references it and frames the narrative throughout. This obviously made a lot of Homestuck fans unhappy. It was a huge, big fallout. And I think it's fairly straightforward. She used a very controversial source in her takedown video of a piece of media and a fandom. So when this video came out, the resounding response was Sarah Z fans loved it. The broader progressive YouTube fan base loved it. And not even just YouTube, just broader progressive. And I saw like folding ideas. I mentioned this in my video, or briefly. I have like a cameo. He mentioned stuff about Homestuck. A lot of the other bread tubers know that's kind of a meaningless label these days. They jumped on and supported their colleague Sarah. I do think it is worth mentioning that, because I just mentioned BreadTube, right? BreadTube was the term to refer to like the left-wing YouTube video essayists. One of the reasons I never really cared for the term is because it really blends like leftists and liberals. Sarah Z's never publicly identified as a leftist. She's just a progressive liberal. So it's not really a fair categorization. Anyway, the second video is then where some real spice actually happens. Where in the second video, she details a bunch of information that amounts to the folks behind Homestuck. That's Andrew Hussey and his team, though Andrew Hussey did literally speak to her personally. Reaching out to her, basically saying, we really didn't like this video, and they wanted to try to talk with her and get some of the facts straightened out. Now, this would end up culminating into them sending actual legal threats, as you can see by the title. So before I get into anything else, because people might be thinking I'm hating on Sarah Z, or I'm way too favorable towards Homestuck. I do not support this whatsoever. I even mentioned this in my video about Homestuck being way too quick to be litigious. And I say that because I do think there are times where you might have to go a legal route if someone's being particularly belligerent. This was not even close to one of those times. They tried to silence her by sending, I think it was a cease and desist or just a threat of a lawsuit. I forget the specific type of legalese. Regardless, they weaponized the legal system against her. And this, I think, is the really unfortunate thing about this video. After this video came out, I saw a lot of despondence from the Homestuck community. And the reason is because I think a lot of actual Homestuck fans With the original video, they're like, this is crap, this stinks. But with the second video, it was like a second video has hit the tower type of situation. And I think that's because there was actual evidence of either incompetence or malice on the part of Andrew Hussey and the Homestuck team. They did a legal threat, and I think that's across the line for most reasonable people. But this is not the same thing as saying that a lot of them turned to support Sarah's side. It's a two evils situation, right? I feel like Sarah's generally bad faith in this video. She has a I would say a malicious framing in the video, a framing surrounding something that was a genuine wrong to her. So the fact that Homestuck used the legal system is not just bad in itself in a vacuum ethically. They shouldn't have done that. But it's also just really bad for their PR. Like, people that want to defend Homestuck, I think, largely recognized, oh crap, now there actually is something they legitimately did wrong. It's not just a bunch of like rumors and stuff. I'm not saying they've never done anything wrong before, but this was like the first big legal drama that I was aware of. Yeah, like I don't want to get into all the weeds. There was stuff before, but this was on a new level, okay? One of the things I find particularly frustrating is the video is actually framed using the rhetorical stylings of Lindsay Ellis's Omegaverse videos. And the fact that Lindsay Ellis signed off on that actually is really frustrating, because I just don't think what happened here with Andrew Hussey and his team, their team, I don't think that is comparable in any way to Lindsay Ellis's legal fallout with Addison Kane. I I'll I'll just play a little bit of it and show you what I mean. If it will load. I don't know why it's being difficult. Come on. There we go. Okay, let's get past the ad.
PJ. My name is Cindy, and I'm the president and CEO of What Pumpkin Games. We here at WP received your contact from Sarah Zed after an associate spoke with her about the Homestuck video she uploaded today on 4/13. We were disappointed to learn that a member of your association published a video that promoted speculative false claims about our company from a known malicious...
So yeah, you can definitely see the framing here, right? They have Maggie Mayfish doing a dramatic reading with like an orchestra in the background to... You know, it is a hostile language. It's from literally a legal filing, or a notification, I should say. Again, not denying that there was wrong here doing, but, you know, they're definitely playing it up. But I don't think it is comparable. If you don't know, this is literally the exact same format used about another agitator of the legal system, Addison Kane. So I feel like that callback was particularly unjustified, because if you go through the video, you will find a number of accounts from Sarah Z that I feel are bad faith, as I mentioned earlier. And the reason is, like, I think if you actually read the emails that were sent back and forth, you can see that they don't necessarily come off in the same way that that Sarah would have you believe. They frame Andrew Hussey's words as like tricky and weaselly and back and forth, when, in my opinion, I felt like reading them that it was Andrew Hussey and team trying to get Sarah to understand on an emotional level why her content had been harmful, and Sarah just refused to engage with that. And they weren't willing to tell her more unless she was willing to engage, and she just never was, so they never told her more. Again, the fact that they followed up with a legal threat is insane. But I hope that at least explains why I don't like Sarah's content. And that's not just me defending Hussey. I just feel like these videos are pretty bad faith. And I think most Homestuck fans that saw them agreed with that, unless they happen to also be Sarah Z fans. So this was a really unfortunate piece of drama that I think stained a lot of the Homestuck fandom for a long time. It was not the only drama, so when I talk about drama in my Homestuck video, I'm kind of trying to take like a bird's eye perspective towards it. Now, recently in the past few days, there has been a bit more. Here, I'll just play this. So, recently that obsessive archivist, I should mention that obsessive archivist I mentioned, there is the unofficial Homestuck collection, which was originally run by a guy named, well, I guess I shouldn't name him. There was run by some other guy. But eventually, the archivist jumped on board that project. Some people have suggested that this archivist is so obsessed that he tries to, like, hijack the entire Homestuck fandom. If that were to be true, and it was just like a power grab type of thing, the reality is that the original creator was completely fine with it. He consented. So that means either there wasn't any type of hostile takeover on his part, or he just manipulated him, which that would have to be a claim you make. I think that's unlikely. Well, yeah, probably. Anyway, so the archivist is now a co-owner of the unofficial Homestuck collection, which is a fan collection archive of Homestuck itself. And skip ahead to today, where the Homestuck website, the official website, is mostly broken. The Homestuck team reaches out to this archivist, the archivist's partner, the other person running it, and says, look, our website's broken, yours is working, let's make a deal, basically. Flowerheart says, how are you doing? Hello, I am talking about Homestuck drama. I'll talk about Disco Elysium in a bit. There's this drama I just felt like I needed to address. So, basically this is a trying to like bury the hatchet situation, water under the bridge. Andrew Hussey, working through a liaison, ends up... Oh, Flowerheart says, I understand your fandom had like 15 9/11s in 2 days. Yeah, it was pretty bad. It was pretty bad. Oh, I messed that up. Oh well. So yeah, so there's the obsessive archivist. Oh, a Flower. Okay, Flower, you give your opinion. I'll circle back. I'll circle back to you after I'm done saying my point. So there's the obsessive archivist, and there's Andrew. Oh, sorry. Flowerheart says it's really funny that the day for it is 8/8. Oh, because like Vriska 8 numbers. Yeah, interesting. I will get to the specific timing of the whole ordeal. So, yeah, a few days ago, there was this big drop, an article by the obsessive archivist making a bunch of accusations about what happened behind the scenes. And that was that the people behind Homestuck reached out to the archivist to try to incorporate the unofficial collection into Homestuck. Their site was broken, their site worked, let's make a deal, let's get everyone to be happy, water under the bridge. Unfortunately, it seems like both people approach this situation with daggers behind their back, in my opinion. Now, to the archivist's credit, it seems more likely than the Homestuck folks, he was willing to give it a chance and basically just had a trump card in his back pocket that if everything blew up, he would just leak everything to his website in the article, expose, say everything that happens. So I don't think it's a stretch to say that Andrew Hussey knew that they were dealing with a potential time bomb. But at the same time, we see later when the Homestuck developers end up DMCAing the unofficial collection that they were willing to wield the legal system and copyright law against the archivist. This is a continuation of the pattern that we saw in the Sarah Z stuff, where Homestuck is willing to use legal threats, and that I think is unacceptable. That is really bad. Now, as I had mentioned earlier, the archivist is a very uncredible source given his past history, given the past mistruths and deliberate misframing that he has done, and the kind of obsessive, at least stalker-y type of behavior he has shown to Homestuck in the past. Like I mentioned, very controversial source. I've heard a lot of bad things through the grapevine. I don't think this means that his account is completely fabricated, but I think all it takes is a passive read over the most recent article to see that it is extremely personally motivated. Like literally he says like Andrew Hussey is personally out to get him. Very inflammatory language. Very like calls him like an abuser and a manipulator. It is not clinical nor dispassionate by any means. I'm not saying it necessarily has to be, but it's, if you walk away from reading that article and think it's anything but obsessive, I don't know what to tell you. Worldly Kiwi says, so is this a both parties are bad, but one is very clearly in the wrong situation? It is definitely a both parties are bad in different ways situation. I think a more accurate way of saying it is both Andrew Hussey and their team, as well as the obsessed archivist and their supporters, have acted maliciously. The question is, what amount of malice was deserved? Because I think you could make the argument based off of the archivist's past behavior that they deserve to be taken off the internet. They have effectively led harassment campaigns. I know there's this thing online where people will be like, well, look, don't go harass people, but then they'll like push people there anyway. I don't like how we treat saying don't harass people means the harassment is negated or doesn't happen. It's literally a virtue signal. And you could argue it's still one worth having, right? You should still at least do the performance of telling people to not go harass, to maybe clamp down on it. But the harassment happens regardless. Yeah. Anyway. I forgot. I got a little distracted on the harassment point. Right. But anyway, based on his past behavior, you could argue that maybe that was deserved. I don't think that you can justify the legal action, but I could understand if I had like copyright power, using bad means to get to a good end type of situation. Likewise, a lot of the action against Hussey and Homestuck, you could argue might be justified given certain context. In fact, that's what a lot of people have been doing that are siding with the archivist. And I feel that is more justified if you believe Sarah and the archivist's accounts completely uncritically, which is, by the way, something that Sarah does. This is something that kind of frustrates me. Sarah, like I got some feedback on, I got some nasty comments from people that said I was being overly charitable to Homestuck's perspective by not just completely regurgitating and affirming the archivist account. And that is something that really frustrated me. Sarah has done the exact same thing. She has just straight up regurgitated and affirmed the entire account. And I think it's obvious that the archivist is not being 100% truthful. One of the big things in their account that doesn't make sense is when the NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, which are really standard in the industry, even if you don't like them, they are standard, they are expected. When NDAs were pitched by Homestuck to the two owners of the collection, one of which is this archivist, the original owner signed right away, and the archivist did not. The archivist never specifies whether the NDA was actually given to them at that time or not. This is a big omission that I think brings their credibility into question. Because if an NDA was presented to both of them and the archivist just refused to sign it because they didn't like it or they wanted more specific language, why would their partner go ahead and sign it without them? They were supposed to be, thick as thieves. Why did one go without the other? It's an inconsistency in the story. It is entirely possible, by the way, that he was willing to sign and they only presented the NDA to one of them and not the other. But he doesn't make that clear, possibly because it's not true and he doesn't want to say an overt falsehood. I don't know. I think, look, I've been targeted by Kiwi Farms before, and I've dealt with a number of Kiwi Farms drama. The whole Keffels versus Kiwi Farms thing, I was quite invested in that as well, despite how that turned out. But I know the tactic very well of doing like character assassinations and just piling on argument after argument, essay after essay. And I really don't care for this type of arguing. To me, I think it kind of belies a flaw in one's character if you cannot make an argument concisely. Because it implies that you're so insecure in your arguments that you feel like you have to layer them one after the other, after the other, after the other. And, some people might say like, well, I just so happen to have 12 arguments against your point. This is just how correct I am. But that's only if you presuppose that your arguments are correct, right? It turns out if you want to make 12 arguments, they don't have to be correct arguments. It's actually very easy to pile on 12 arguments. This is why whenever people do like debates online, one single deafening argument I feel like is usually better than a whole like character assassination essay. I feel like it's just meant to overwhelm you and dissuade you from replying, because what are you going to do? Spend the next 3 hours of your life writing essays back and forth? So the way Kiwi Farms is able to do their harassment and abuse is by getting a whole bunch of evidence that has a kernel of truth and veracity to it, and then poisoning the well by choosing to cherry pick and omit facts. And I think this mode of operation is not dissimilar from the way the archivist operates. Pebble says gish gallop. Yeah, exactly. It is a text form of gish galloping. Flowerheart says, my main fandom, what fandom doesn't matter, has like big legal mess each summer for 2 years, but this summer is fine. But then Homestuck just got all that. Did we pass a curse on you? Is your fandom by chance the Vivzy Pop stuff? I don't know. Whirly Kiwi says, what's gish gallop? Gish galloping is a rhetorical fallacy where you make argument after argument after argument, and you deliberately try to overwhelm your opponent to the point that the opponent cannot possibly respond to every point. If you've ever watched an online debate between a reasonable person and a fascist, then you probably have seen gish galloping, because the fascist will just throw out 20 points that are obviously wrong, and their hope is to Flowerheart's leaving. All right, see you. Thank you for checking in. If you want to see the rest of my argument, you can just check out the VOD later. I have it on YouTube under Kyle Marshiku. Yeah, so we'll come later. All right, thank you for checking in. But yeah, with gish galloping, what they're hoping is that the reasonable person will try to respond to every point and get so tangled in the weeds that they're playing defense the entire time. The effective way to deal with gish galloping is to single out one central core point and go after that. Ignore all of these distractions. This is also, by the way, why some people have issues with platforming fascists with debates and things like that in the first place. Because an effective debate against a fascist means ignoring like 50% or more of the actual things they say. So a lot of fascists will know this, and so even if they're against someone that is effective debating, will just use it as a platform to scream obscenities, to say every possible thing. Maybe you successfully defeated that fascist in the realm of facts and logic, but they still threw out 15 white genocide conspiracy theories on your platform during that debate. I'm not saying you should never debate a fascist. I think there can be contexts where it's done right, but it's a calculus that you have to make, and it can backfire. Anyway, I think a lot of people do that gish galloping just in text form. Anyway, where was I? Yes. So a few days ago, the archivist makes this big manifesto. People call it an article, but with the level of obsession, I think it's fair to call it a manifesto. There are a few inconsistencies that stand out to me. There's also the fact that the original creator of the unofficial Homestuck collection has left the project. It seems like they got fed up with just the whole thing being put between the archivist and Homestuck and left. They said they had no love for Homestuck anymore. Genuinely actually seemed quite sad. I wish we knew more from their perspective, but we simply just don't. But let's see. Is there anything else in the drama? I'm trying to remember if I'm not forgetting something. Oh, right. So on the very next... Actually, yeah. Okay. On the very next day, yesterday morning, this dropped. Vivzy Pop, the creators of Hazbin Hotel and Heck of a Boss, release an animated trailer for a Homestuck TV show. Or at least a pilot. It could potentially turn into a TV show. I don't think that's likely, though. But this is honestly, genuinely really cool. And this was displayed at a con, a convention, and was just uploaded to YouTube. What this means is the time this was released was fixed in stone. Some people have suggested that this was released to smooth over the drama. That's literally not possible. I really am excited for this to come out. I think the crossover of Hazbin Hotel fans and Homestuck fans is genuinely a really cool thing. They're both Tumblr-coded weirdos. I am fans of both of these things. This was made for us. Whirly Kiwi says, this, Eschler's animations, and Project S, holy crap, 3 cakes. Ishler's animations are amazing. I need to watch more of them. I've only seen a couple. Project S, I've only heard Project S in response to this. So that implies it's a bit more of a niche indie fan project that's only been recently developed, but that's just my guess. I never heard about it before. Anyway, yeah, we don't need to, what's the phrase? Don't compare two bad B words against each other. Yeah. Anyway, so this is exciting. However, the timing I do think is suspicious, yes? The archivist did their expose, released it, like the day before this dropped. Some people would say that's conspiratorial. How would the archivist know? Well, the archivist has demonstrated stalkery tendencies. The archivist has had personal communication with the majority of the members behind Homestuck. So I don't think it is unreasonable to suggest this was either leaked to them or was sold to them and they shouldn't have known, or if they just hacker-like found out themselves somehow. Who knows? There's definitely mismanagement behind the Homestuck team, so I just feel like the odds of this being leaked in some way internally is extremely high. And it indicates malicious intent on the archivist's part. So like I said earlier, where you fall in this drama depends on which amount of malicious intent you think is justified. Do you think it is justified for the archivist to be malicious towards Hussey? Do you think it's justified for Hussey to be malicious to the archivist? Personally, I think neither is justified. I genuinely think it is insane that Hussey and their team reached out to the archivist in the first place. This was always going to end poorly. And I genuinely think they reached out to them being like, okay, let's bury the hatchet. Let's get their site. Let's make everyone happy, but we'll try to do this in a friendly style. And if that doesn't work, we have copyright in our back pocket. It indicates to me the archivist's participation was never optional. They were going to wield copyright to get the fan project under their boot, which they have the right to do legally, but I think it is obviously immoral. That being said, the archivist is an uncredible source, and I would not recommend trusting them at face value. Even the logs they post aren't screenshots, but are like text recreations embedded in the website they have. This means there was ample opportunity for editing, so it really comes down to just who do you trust. Again, I don't think they completely fabricated their story, but like I mentioned with the Kiwi Farms comparison, a lot of manipulation can happen based on what you choose to include or exclude. Whew. All right. So I spent a certain amount of time on the Homestuck Reddit talking with a lot of the fan base there, because the Reddit, for some reason, seems to be where a lot of the active Homestuck fan base is. But I made a poll to see what people's thoughts were on this whole drama, and this is the results here. Let me refresh, actually, in case there's more votes. It's not exactly the most representative sample, but I'm going to tell you what I think these results indicate to me. So, poll on recent drama. I'm curious to see the distribution of this Reddit's opinions on the recent Homestuck drama regarding the unofficial Homestuck collection. First option. I think Andrew Hussey, Homestuck, and by extension their employees have been the sole malicious actors, 54 people. I think Geo, the operator of UHC, and by extension his supporters, have been the sole malicious actors, 5. I think all parties of this drama have made mistakes or acted maliciously, 57. I don't know enough to come to a conclusion, 41. I don't care, I just want to see what happens with the new Vivsy Pop animation, 21. My take is too nuanced for this poll or isn't represented here, 23. The way I see this is, according to this drama, by the pure numbers, we basically have a third that are fully on the... Oh, crap. I just realized I accidentally gave away the name by showing this. I am sorry. That was not my intention. But a third of people are fully on the archivist's and Sarah's side in this situation. A third of people think both sides bad of some flavor. They might prefer one side, but they think both sides bad. And then a third of people, or possibly even more actually, just here, I'm not going to count this one. Yeah, so a third just don't really care either way. And I say this having spent enough time on this Reddit kind of arguing with people. I think the anti-Homestuck sentiment is overinflated here. I think when in my Homestuck video, I make a distinction between fans and anti-fans. Can I find it? Yeah. And I think this is an important distinction to make, not with just Homestuck, but with a lot of media. There are people who don't get enjoyment out of a piece of content, but they will get an enjoyment out of discussion related to that piece of content. For a more tame example, imagine like the Rent-A-Girlfriend anime. It's a trash anime for many reasons, but there's a lot of people that know about it, like myself, only because of the discussion around the anime of people talking about how much they hate it. I think drama is one of the biggest fears of YouTube right now, drama YouTube, and it is garbage. It is like the most slop a thing can be unless it's made by AI. A lot of it is made by AI nowadays. And so I think anti-fans are people that predominantly consume drama. They don't like the content, they like the content about the content, the secondary market. And I think that population is overrepresented on Reddit because, honestly, it's Reddit, right? Do I need to do more of an explanation? Reddit kind of has that reputation. So the fact that a third of people are very solidly on the anti-Homestuck side of the equation, I think this is overrepresented by the Reddit bias. If I did this poll somehow magically to the broader fandom, I think this section, the both parties bad, would overwhelmingly be the majority. I think it's also worth mentioning that almost no people completely disavowed the side of the archivist and Sarah. I have seen the supporters of these two saying that people will defend Hussey to the extremes. People, will suck Hussey's bleep. Sycophants, right? They accuse people of being sycophants. But this poll at least on this Reddit, implies to me that very few people are actually unwilling to say that Hussey and Homestuck did wrong. It seems like almost everyone is in agreement who cares to say, in agreement that Homestuck did do wrong here. They just acknowledge that the source is biased and also acted maliciously or made mistakes. I think that's actually notable because it implies that these people here that claim that there's like ridiculous Hussey defenders, they aren't talking about these people. These people are almost non-existent. Maybe, you know, a handful, maybe an occasional time it happens. But by and large, they're talking about these people. It's my way or the highway. And this does give me some amount of solace that the Homestuck fandom is not doomed. It does seem, like I said in my video, that Homestuck is doomed to be dragged through the mud, but it's nice to know that some people are being, I think, reasonable and willing to not just believe the internet at face value or regurgitate the arguments that a YouTube creator gives you. I have seen some arguments where people are saying that the archivist would be insane to lie because that could be used against them legally. I think people that say that are being given a talking point from someone, I don't know who or where. And I think that argument is bad because it really overestimates the robustness of the legal system. Part of the reason legal threats are such a bad thing, a thing that I condemn, is because the goal is to silence you. The goal is to make you pony up money that you don't have to contest them legally. So the idea that this is going to go to court and there's going to be a judge and a jury, and if you lied at all, that's going to be used against you, like, you might as well argue that in a divorce proceeding that it would be crazy and ridiculous for a man to lie about what the woman did because that will be used against him in court. Come on, we know that's not how this works, okay? Lying is how the world works. Lying is how lawyers work. Lying is how the courts work. So yeah, I don't think the threat of legal language means that someone would be pressured against lying. Maybe you could say pressured against the fabrication of evidence and logs or something like that, because that would come out in discovery if it ever went to court. But I think people are underestimating that a libel case, particularly in America, is extremely difficult to prove. It's not just that you need a falsehood to be proven to be false. It's that you have to prove that you knew it was false. You have to prove malicious intent, which is very difficult. Okay, I have ranted a lot about this. Yeah, I think there's more good people than bad people, but I think most of the active Reddit Homestuck fans, actually not even most, but unfortunately I think an overrepresented portion of them are polarized against Homestuck. They eat up the drama. I think that's unfortunate, and I think if you have listened to me talk today, and your response is to give me a hateful essay, like I'm expecting maybe a bad comment or two, who knows? I don't know how many people care about what I have to say. I think that's disingenuous because I have been willing to condemn Hussey's behavior. I have been willing to condemn the Homestuck's behavior. I also condemn Sarah's behavior, and I also condemn the archivist's behavior. I think the worst thing that happened in this situation, like the worst individual action, is not that the legal threat to take down the unofficial Homestuck collection happened. I think it's the fact that they went into the conversation with that in their back pocket. Some would call that manipulative. Some would call that abuse. I think those terms could be fair, and I think it's very dishonest to try to work with somebody knowing that if they don't consent, you are prepared to make them consent. Make them consent's a bit of a euphemism. Use the legal system, you know what I mean. Anyway, that's unfortunate. That's disappointing. I do not appreciate the way they use the legal system for their own ends. However, again, it's also about who do you think deserved malicious actions? And I don't think highly of the Archivist nor Sarah, and I do not think you should take their accounts at face value. I think they have acted in bad faith. I think they have acted maliciously as well. I think this is drama. And I hope that it doesn't stick. So those are my opinions. I think, oh, Flowerheart says I'm back. You missed a lot. I think ultimately Homestuck is still good, actually. Oh, I should mention, by the way, at one point, James Roach, the person who was running Homestuck Beyond Canon, James Roach left a couple of months ago. And I'm almost certain it had to do with this drama. I could not see a reason why he would leave, besides the medical reasons, which I guess, but I think it was also encouraged by the fact he probably didn't like this drama that was brewing in the background. It implies to me at least some sympathy towards the Archivist position. I still don't like the Archivist, but I am willing to give credit where that credit is due. I think it's very unfortunate. I still think... Okay, I'm kind of just going in circles. Yes, everyone bad, basically. And I think it's different types of bad. And I think there's way too many people that are purely on this side not willing to give that same credit on the opposing side like I am. I think all parties acted maliciously or made mistakes. Flowerheart says also another thing about your fandom. It had a birthday of a character on 8/8. That character was one who accidentally caused legal bullcrap, which is why I joked about the curse. Okay, sure. It's hard for me to comment if I don't know what you're talking about, really. Anyway, so that is the drama. I have a few notifications up here. I will not be checking them. I would really like to check out of this drama. Reddit, not great. Oh, I should mention, Sarah Zedig is someone who was friends with or close to some of the creators of the original Homestuck Squared. Big Homestuck fan, made Homestuck fan fiction, worked with Sophie from Mars, which didn't seem to be like a great person. That's not a great connection. And also, Sarah Zedig has been friendly towards like people I would call tankies. I have not historically really liked Sarah Zedig, but Sarah Zedig, every time of Homestuck drama, seems to be on the correct side, in my opinion. And Sarah has cautioned people from taking the Archivist account at face value, and that is something I appreciate, and I just wanted to shout that out. Okay. Flowerheart says, don't worry, just explained. Yeah, no problem. Okay, that is Homestuck drama. Goodness, that was exhausting. Honestly, it wasn't even the only drama I had to deal with this week. I don't know if any of you have heard, but there was also a drama amongst quotation trans girl poster Blue Sky. Blue Sky being the more progressive alternative to Nazi Twitter. But a lot of, apparently, the big trans posters, like they self-identify as posters, like that's the only content they provide is posting posts, tweets, basically. They were found to be in a clique of Ming girls that were like accusing people falsely of sexual impropriety. It was genuinely insane. And similar to this situation, the person that leaked it, there is a large consensus, I can't prove this, but there's a large consensus that that person is themselves a sexual abuser. So it feels like it's mean girls all around, and some of them are just eating their own type of thing. And again, I got a migraine looking into these two dramas, just trying to figure out, because you want an easy hero and you want an easy villain, right? Like who's actually to blame? And it turns out in situations like these, usually everyone is to blame to some extent, so you're just trying to find the lesser evil and the greater evil. Flowerheart says, also, what do you feel about the whole Vivzy Homestuck pilot? Because just how in the world that happened in 2 days. I already mentioned that. Sorry, you missed it. But yeah, I did talk about it. I am excited for it. I don't think it's going to become a whole show. I just don't think Homestuck has that type of broad appeal, unfortunately, even though it should, really. I hope the Homestuck and Vivzy Pop fans are normal. Maybe not normal is the best word. I just hope they don't... I hope they don't be weird in the worst ways possible. be like the weird conservative woke scoldy type of weird. Like you know what? I made a Reddit post. I'm gonna pull it up, put it on a different screen so I don't like dox something. Okay, how do I find my recent posts? I am not a big Reddit user. Posts, okay. Let me find it. Oh, that doesn't give me my replies. Oh, comments are a different thing. Okay. Sorry, bear with me, bear with me. Okay, I found it. So this person goes on saying, some of y'all are so effing ungrateful. I guess I'll read this. I'm not in this fandom and I have no idea what this thing is about, but I do know is people have been asking for a Homestuck animated show for years. You get the Homestuck show and you cry and whine about it. I am a massive Heckaverse fan of 2 years, and even I agree that Vivzy Pop has questionable writing skills. Personally, I do not agree, by the way. I thought the shows were amazing. But I'm not gonna lie, her producing this show was a good idea. She is not writing anything on this show. She isn't even the main producer, so you can calm down with that crap. And Vivzy Pop is extremely popular. Your mum probably has heard of her before. I think it's a bit of a stretch. Meaning, this being executively produced by her is going to introduce hundreds of thousands of people. That is also a real stretch to this project. Why wouldn't you want that? Oh, but the Heckaverse fans will ruin the fandom. You guys hate Heckaverse fans because of the dramas involved. I have never been in this fandom before, and I may never will, but you guys have definitely had dramas in this fandom before. If you guys are going to be mean to the Heckaverse fans before they've even got here, why the heck do you think they'd even want to join the fandom? They're not welcome here, clearly. Just take the trailer for F's sake. Pebble says, "Ah, yes, my Gen X mother." Yeah, no. Vivzy Pop is very much indie. Very successful indie, but that's just because standards are low. Flower Heart says, "I'm actually curious how it goes. Only thing I care about is the show. Please don't mess up lands. Lands and Homestuck are utterly beautiful. I don't want the show to mess up their beauty, you know." I actually think people should be, if it ever got to be a Homestuck show, people need to be willing for alterations to canon. I really don't want Homestuck fans to go down the road of DC and Marvel fans where every time in an adaptation they make some tweaks and alterations, they scream about it. Like, let it just be an adaptation. If they want to like remove some complicating details, improve or tweak the story, or just accelerate it and get on with it, I think that's a good thing. Flowerheart says, "I just want them to be pretty." That's it. I mean, I want that too. I don't think we have to worry about that though. Anyway, so this is a lot of pain that someone is feeling. And so I responded with this, and I was kind of proud of this response. "I don't feel gratefulness is a good metric, but I have an underlying sympathy with your position. There's a lot of Tumblr-coded content like Homestuck, Has-Been Hotel, even stuff like Steven Universe, where the amorphous blob that is called its fandom you'd think would be excited with its developments, be excited with new content. But they aren't. You present them a new cake, and they swat the cake away while calling you a slur, or a 3-page essay that implies you sold your mother into slavery. This is why I make a distinction between fans and anti-fans. Fans are here for the content, but anti-fans are here for the content around the content. In effect, the anti-fans only use the media as a springboard for the actual content they desire, the drama and tears of real people who actually care." You can probably tell I don't have a high opinion of drama mongers. So, that is me talking about the drama. I have tried to be fair. I have tried to be fair and balanced, TMCR. Yeah, I am frustrated that Homestuck gave bad faith people genuine ammunition. That's going to be my last comment on the matter. Okay, so we're going to move on now, and I am going to talk about Disco Elysium, okay? If anyone has questions, feel free to ask, but I'm going to talk about Disco Elysium, which in my opinion is one of the best games ever made. That's what I wanted to talk about today. Homestuck fans, if you're still watching, please have a second interest. Please like things besides Homestuck, okay? I'm proud of my Homestuck videos, but I make other content, and I just want people to check it out, okay? All right, give me a moment to boot up Disco Elysium. I'm just going to boot up the game because I can actually have the game booted while I talk about it. So I think that'll be fun. All right. Steam, Disco Elysium. Flowerheart says, I love Disco Elysium. It's such a good game. It took me so long to get around to it, and I honestly genuinely feel bad about that. It's just that there's so many things vying for your attention these days, and I have to juggle them. And, like, I always knew it would be good, but if I had known it was this good, I would have tried it out earlier. All right. All right, so this is my final setup in Disco Elysium. These are my skills. This is my final setup. So, Disco Elysium is an RPG, but it's a very untraditional one. Oh, Worldly Kiwi says, I have other interests, but my autism puppeteers me into making crossover AUs. Currently in the process of making Fallout Stuck. I have kind of conflicting opinions when it comes to, do you make original content or derivative content, right? Because there are existing worlds I love so much, like Fallout and Homestuck, that I want to build on top of. I want to make more stuff in it. I want to add to it. But I feel like you're limited in your creativity, right? Coming up with something brand new is hard, but it's also very rewarding. I'm currently in the process of doing that with my second book, and the first one's not even selling, whatever. I'm still working on that, as I mentioned in my previous stream. Anyway, I can't say either one is better than the other, but I can say I have creatively been drawn towards both pursuits, and I genuinely think there is value in both pursuits. I think it's unfortunate, though, that copyright makes derivative content a lot more difficult. I also think there's different levels of quality of derivative content. Flowerheart says, oh yeah, I know that feeling. Like I'm doing a whole story about multiverse traveling lesbian magical girls. That sounds awesome. Anyway, so Disco Elysium is a very unconventional RPG. It is one of the best games ever made. And one of the really interesting things is the skills system. You see all these skills here? It's a lot. It's a lot to take in. But they are not just skills. They are characters. Like, they are literally characters. You talk to anyone and they speak in your mind. So here, let me just talk to my partner, because you play as a cop, right? Which is interesting for a very leftist game to play as a cop. But yeah.
Yes?
Here, tell me about the case.
What do you want to know?
Can we go over the info?
You mean like a brief?
Yeah.
3 days ago, the RCM Emergencies Desk received a report about a security guard who was found hanged in Martinez. An anonymous caller said there was a dead body behind the Whirling in Rags hostel cafeteria. The cadaver had been there for 4 days. No one had come to investigate.
Bureaucrat grade 18 says a nightmare of a cop. That is very true. Very much a nightmare.
During that time, the victim had been stripped of his belongings.
Let's see if we can get a skill to interject.
There's a strong prejudice. Just to be clear, we are police officers. No, the deceased is There was some good point. Martinez is famed for its occult sex murder rites. We'll get on it immediately.
The wary tone is the surest indicator that the lieutenant is being sarcastic.
See? So that's my rhetoric skill butting in our dialogue to tell me in my head, hey, just so you know, he is being sarcastic. It's so cool. I love it so much. I honestly wonder how, like, plural people that identify as, like, systems and stuff, I wonder how they feel about this, because, like, I feel like I'm getting a glimpse into that reality. I don't know, regardless, it's really cool. Pebble says he is being sarcastic. Yeah, exactly.
No, not really.
Wow, really? That's mega sexy.
Was there anything else?
It can still be an otherworldly sex mystery in your head, with a dark twist even.
Yeah, see, a conceptualization is just like, yeah, let's tell a cool story, bleep the facts, let's just be entertaining. I love it. Flowerheart says, I never thought about that. We'll ask my pal. Yeah, I'd be interested in hearing about that. Anyway, So this stuff is really cool. I played the game. You have to pick one skill to be your favorite. I picked conceptualization. Understand creativity, see art in the world. And I'm just going to read the info. Cool for creatives, psychedelic fanciers, critics. Conceptualization has a special role it wants you to play in this world. Not the role of cop, but of art cop. It enables you to make fresh associations, to delve into world concepts from Jan Karp's postmodernist. Oh crap! Can I get? Yeah. I'm kind of. I muted myself. Sorry. I'm in the way of the screen, so I'll just take my word for it. Fresh associations to delve into the world comes from John Karp's postmodern Carpere to Revachel's arabesque architectural style didgeridoo, and even the concept of hardcore, and then, importantly, to add your own contribution to these works. At high levels, conceptualization makes you go big, perhaps too big. It is ostentatious, demanding grand displays. Why live life when you could throw yourself into a live volcano? At low levels, however, you'll be unable to see the world in a creative light. You'll be unable to contribute to conversations in an art gallery. Only boring people will invite you to their dust parties. Bureaucrat Gray says, I like Inline Empire. Inline Empire is definitely really cool. And World Kiwi says, not a system, but I have a similar thing with voices. Interesting. But, yeah, so all of these characters are interesting. I went for a full intellect with some psyche. No physique, so I had 1 HP the whole game, except you'll notice I have 2 HP. That's because I'm wearing a raincoat. The raincoat gives me an extra HP, so I have to wear this raincoat or I'll die in one hit. Like, the one time I died in this game was I kicked a chimney so hard I broke my leg and died of a heart attack. Oh, not counting, I also got shot at another point. So those were the 2 times I died. Anyway, this is my skill loadout. Yeah. I should talk about the politics of this game. Oh, wait, hold on. Before I do that, here is my thought cabinet. Because in addition to skills, you basically get perks, and these things give you new dialogue options that you don't get otherwise. It's really cool. And so there's a whole bunch you can learn, and then once you even know of them, you have to spend time internalizing them, thinking about them. I have maxed out the thoughts because they are so cool. So I have inexplicable feminist agenda. So +1 empathy could evolve into a radical feminist. -1 electrochemistry would have to quit drugs to get there. This one's kind of interesting. I don't agree with all of the options. It's very extreme. It's a very political game. Insulindian Miracle. Yeah, the poem for the Pale. I had to get my crap together to be able to be a cop. Bow Collector. This gives me shivers, which is kind of religious in an interesting way. Mazovian socioeconomics, I went down the communist route, of course. Rigorous self-critique, look, the guy you play as, he's not great, okay? I felt like I needed to do some self-improvement. Actual art degree, art cop, obviously. The Suicide of Krasmazov, this is more communism. It's actually genuinely interesting, where, like... I'll get into the politics stuff later. Then we have Jamais Vu Derealization, which talks about the world building of Disco Elysium. It turns out this world is not a sphere. It's actually a bunch of like tectonic plates separated by a substance called the Pale. It's kind of insane in the most beautiful way. I know it's a spoiler, but I'm going to get into spoilers. I've already gone into spoilers. I'm not going to spoil everything. I'll try not to. But warning, I might. Anyway. By the way, there's a door you can't open, so you can learn a thought to be like, I want to open the door. And it just goes, there is no way to open the door. You need to accept you can't go everywhere. Which was really funny. And then here's another like art thing. Okay. So I'm going to talk about politics now. Let's quit this game. All right, let's turn music back on. Okay. So I want to talk about politics. Disco Elysium is an extremely political game. So I think to really understand it, we have to get political. So I know not everyone has a robust understanding of politics, so I would like to give a little bit of an overview. This is your standard political compass. It is just a two-dimensional framework to try to understand politics. Oh, Flowerheart says, update. Pal said they never played it, but their friends said they would like it. Yeah, well, I would recommend it to them. But this is not to say that this is the only correct way to demonstrate politics, but it is kind of like the consensus framework. I think it is actually a little bit flawed because, hold on, where's the... By the way, I have to use paint.net because I don't have Photoshop on this computer. Pebble says, lesson 1, people disagree on things. Yep. Oh, we got a spammer in chat. 1 second. There we go. So this chart's a little bit flawed because in real life, this quadrant and this quadrant are kind of the main two. You don't see a lot of people up here, and you don't see a lot of people up here. In fact, they're kind of contradictory. Authoritarian communist is just as contradictory as anarchist capitalist. These things don't make sense. But people have nonsense beliefs sometimes. That just is a thing that happens. If you've seen a standard left-right spectrum in like American politics or something, you won't use this entire thing. For example, up here, right up in the corner, you have fascism. Okay? Down here, you have like centrist anarchism. But down here, you would have like what people call anarcho-communism, or basically OG anarchism. Lovely letters. Down here, you would have anarcho-capitalists. And up here, you would have authoritarian communists, or like tankies, basically. Stalinist, defenders of Mao, that type of person. And I would say the modern American Republican Party is fascist. There's a problem where fascism has a bad reputation, so a lot of conservatives use the label conservative despite just simply being fascist. So I would say the American system is kind of up here. Democrats, the Democratic Party, modern liberals or neoliberals, they're often called leftists and communists, but that's not accurate. They're not even remotely close to that. They tend to be pretty authoritarian, also right-leaning. I would say... I would say maybe like right here, you would find most Democrats. So when people talk about the left-right spectrum of just like simple left versus right in the modern day, they are talking specifically about this line right here, a very narrow section of the entire political dynamic. So that is obviously oversimplified. You do have people like AOC and Bernie Sanders and like what people call democratic socialists. And I think they honestly are kind of down here. So here, I'll say AOC. Where they are definitely less authoritarian and capitalist, like literally opposing capitalism. But they're still kind of in that like liberal framework and are quite a bit different from the Democrats, but they're not exactly like doing anything revolutionary. I have criticisms of both people, but I think they are genuinely good people. It might be a little unfair to not put them at least a little bit left this way. Or this way. But Disco Elysium does something that I think is really interesting. They come up with their own political labels. Now, they still have fascism, and they have communism, but in the world of Disco Elysium, they have an entirely alternate history. The world building is genuinely one of the best I've ever seen, and it seems like it's the best just because 10 years worth of effort and labor and love have gone into it. It was originally like a TTRPG before it was a video game. In the world of Disco Elysium, there was a communist revolution led by Krasmazov, an obvious analog to Karl Marx. Prior to the revolution, there was the suzerain, a massive king empire, kind of like the Tsar, but even bigger. And the revolution had 3 locales, but most people know of the big one, the one in Revachol, where the game takes place. This is where Krasmazov was. Power to the people, rise up against the king, all genuinely good stuff. One thing that's kind of interesting is there's a lot of bad things said about the revolution. But as you play the game, you realize it's a bunch of lies. It's a bunch of propaganda. They say the communists did all these bad things, but you find very little evidence to actually affirm that those bad things ever actually happened. I've watched other people play the game like Bricky and Woolly Versus, and I think a lot of people kind of miss that characters lie to you. The whole game is spending time with people lying directly to your face. Over the entire course of the game, I found very little evidence of actual wrongdoing. Now, I do believe they did wrong things. They seem to have, like, I think one of the worst things they did is they seem to have kind of conscripted their folks to fight a last stand when they were invaded. But they were invaded and killed to a man. Given the context, I don't think that's actually that indefensible. I'm not saying it's a good thing, but, like, they were being massacred, you know? One of the really interesting things about Disco Elysium is that the communist revolution fails. People compare it to the Soviet Union's October Revolution with Lenin. And I think there is definite comparison, but it differs, right? I think people forget that, like, Lenin was actually kind of based when he did the revolution. Most of the really bad things he did would come later, though there were warning signs, definitely. The communist revolution in the Soviet Union was a good thing, but it went poorly. Famously, the Stalinists would execute the anarchists that had actually helped with the revolution. In Disco Elysium, the anarchists side with the communists. They are a united front. So in real life, while Stalin would be up here, the communists in Disco Elysium are kind of just here. Like, okay, maybe like Krasmazov is up here, and maybe the anarchists that we're helping are like down that way, right? But they had a united front to oppose the suzerain. The communists end up getting several years, I should say, they survived 2 years. The communist revolution, like, there was hope for 2 years before literally they took down the king, they killed the king, they get the revolution, and the entire rest of the world unites against them. There's a scene where a character talks about just the sky being black with airships. And it's horrifying. So the communist revolution was snuffed out in its grave. Maybe it could have become something bad like in our real world history, but that never happened here. So in Disco Elysium, the line you're actually given isn't this tiny line up here. It is, let me get a different color. Pink, hot pink. The line is this. That's kind of ugly. Hold on. Can I do that? No. Close enough. This is the left to right spectrum in Disco Elysium. Although, actually, that's not entirely correct, because when you're told about communism in the game, rhetoric is insane about communism. Flowerheart says, I wonder what role Mensheviks play in this parallel. I'm not familiar with that term, which is a little shocking to me. I'm normally familiar with these terms. I know what a Bolshevik is. I know what a Trotskyist is, a Leninist. That's just not what I'm familiar with. When rhetoric approaches you, when you're acting very communist in your skill rhetoric, your skill rhetoric approaches you and says, "Hey, looks like you're being a communist." You can opt in. You're like, "Yeah, I'm a communist," and rhetoric goes like, "Yeah, so you want to kill everyone personally who has more than $25 in their pocket." And you're like, "Wait, hold on, that sounds a bit extreme." And rhetoric's like, "Too bad, you're in this now." The game leans into the idea that because communists lost, the victories get to write the history, right? History is written by the victor. So while the actual communists are down here, because all of the reasonable people, the reasonable communists, were murdered to a man, they were killed, they lost the war, the memory of communism is up here, even though it never actually got that high. So, in effect, let me get a different color. Let's go for yellow. In effect, the actual political line in Disco Elysium is more like this. It's a little wonky, actually. Here, let me do it better. It's more like this. There we go. Where even though the actual communists were down here, they all dead. They're gone. So you're compared to a mythical, imagined version of communism that most people didn't actually believe in. Flowerheart says Mensheviks did first, Bolsheviks second. Okay, not familiar with them, sorry. Whirly Kiwi says, I learned about Disco Elysium's communist revolution before playing Disco Elysium proper. DE feels extra hopeless because of this. Yes and no. The main theme of Disco Elysium is that you should never give up. It's that there's always hope, even when things are hopeless. And there's a twist near the end of the game where they make a very deliberate reveal about this. I'll probably talk more about it later. Again, I'm spoiling a lot about the game. By the way, even if you listen to this stream and you're like, Kyle spoiled everything, there's no point in playing it, play it anyway. Trust me, it's still worth it. I don't even know everything about the game because there's so many different ways to go about doing it. Anyway, the yellow line here is the DE. Oh man, I chose a terrible color by picking yellow. All right, let me pick a different color. Let's do a red line. Okay. Okay, red is the DE, the Disco Elysium political line. Okay. So you still have fascism, right? Fascism is on the edge. And on the left, you have what people call communism, even though the revolution was actually down here, okay? They were not authoritarian. Not in any, like, meaningful way. They were in opposition to... Like, you know, there's a phrase called black nationalism, right? Where, like, oppressed black people want to do a revolution and create their own state. Creating an ethno-state is obviously bad. Creating a state in general is some flavor of authoritarianism. But black nationalism is actually a based ideology compared to other types of nationalism because the entire point is to move away from a more nationalist and white supremacist framework. It's context dependent. World Kiwi says, that's how I am with spoilers. I know it happens, but I need to be in the room where it happens. The room where it happens. All right, so... I got distracted by thinking of Hamilton lyrics. So communism is here, fascism is here, and there's a group, a faction called the Moralists. These are kind of like neoliberals. Their entire ideology is effectively centrism, right? They believe that everything should stay the same, nothing should ever change. These are the people that crushed the revolution. I think this is really cool. If you know anything about American politics, Democrats are notoriously incompetent. They can't do anything. They can't govern to save their lives. There's a really funny meme about this I should pull up. Simpsons convention politics. Yes. Here's a side-by-side of two scenes in The Simpsons. Here, let me pull it up to be bigger. They show the Republicans here. The Republicans are like, we want what's worst for everyone. We're just plain evil. Which, yep, that's a Republican for you. They literally want bad things. They support pedophilia while claiming to be against it. And then we have the Democrats here. We hate life and ourselves. We can't govern. I don't think this is entirely accidental. I think they actually just don't want to be in charge, because being in charge comes with having responsibility, and they can be blamed on their failures. They are a corrupt, complicit party. They serve to legitimize the Republicans. They're pretty bad. American politics is in a really bad state. Flowerheart says, by the way, I'm surprised that you don't know about the February Revolution. Oh, I do know about the revolution. I just didn't know about the term, the Menshevik. But anyway. Where was I? Yeah, so one thing about the Democrats is that they are notoriously incompetent, but throw a socialist at them and very suddenly they grow incredibly competent. If you've been following the New York election where a socialist was challenging the Democrat, you'll see that all of a sudden they started doing a ton of PR and spinning. This is what people call the ratchet effect, where Democrats are free to move rightward, but they will never move leftward. And I think this is represented in Disco Elysium, where you have the moralist, the centrist neoliberal faction. They don't think anything should ever change, but they don't really also do that much. They are the current owners of reality. But the moment a communist revolution comes, they send in airships, they shut that crap down, they murder everyone. It is like the one time they do anything. It's frightening. Now, there are other characters as well. Let's see here. You have factions, sorry, ideologies, I should say, not characters. But ideologies. Let's see. What should I do next? Obviously, socialists would be like over here. And I think right here in the middle, you would have like social democrat. It's kind of interesting that the term social democrat, which is a real term, still exists in Disco Elysium. A social democrat is effectively like an actual centrist. Like in American politics, centrists are over here, right? Which is still very far to this corner. But you would think being a centrist would be like down here. And in the world of Disco Elysium, a centrist is right here. In real life, I think social democrat is... what Flowerheart says, by the way, I'm curious what country is Disco Elysium made. I think it's Poland. I forget. It's Eastern European, I think. Worldly Kiwi says, once again, remember Rosa Luxemburg. Yeah, tragic. Social Democrat, I think, is one of the most useless labels in the modern day. Because people use Social Democrat just to mean centrist between liberal and communist. And what exactly that means is ill-defined. There are a lot of parties in Europe who, by social democrat, what they meant is they would like to get to socialism someday, and they're working towards that. And as you can tell from the past 100 years, they have not done that. In fact, they don't even want to do it anymore. So often I feel like social democrat is used to distinguish yourself from socialism. This is why there's a lot of social democrats like the debate streamer Destiny comes to mind, who identified as a social democrat, and he's just a right-winger. Like he's not maybe like towing the Republican line, but he's a right-winger. He's a moderate right-winger, maybe. Flowerheart says, all right, no surprise you can compare it to the USSR because the game is made in Estonia. Okay, thanks for the correction. Now there is another term in Disco Elysium, ultra-liberal. And it's a little nebulous. I think really... Okay, is ultra-liberal left of social democrat or not? I think it's kind of... It is and it isn't at the same time. Okay, problem is social democrat is a broad label. So let me stretch that out. All of this is social democrat, okay? And then here you have ultra liberal. This is also a kind of contradictory phrase. In the real world, liberals were originally based because liberals were opposing monarchy, right? They were going for a system where you still had class stratification, but that there would be movement between the classes, that things wouldn't be fixed with like heredity and stuff. They also believed in like free markets and capitalism and stuff like that with a strong centralized government, but they believed in these things at a time where a lot of that was still experimental. Hamilton had Alexander Hamilton had a lot of bad beliefs. He was very authoritarian. But compared to what he was up against, it's not hard to frame him as a libertarian, which is what the Hamilton musical did. I only say this because I am willing to give some amount of give people slack. Sorry, give people some slack. Hundreds of years ago, when these things were still somewhat experimental. Of course, the founding fathers were still largely slavers, which includes Hamilton, at least to some extent. I don't think he actually owned slaves, but he did engage in the trade at one point in his life. Anyway, all that's a roundabout way of saying that liberals originally had some favorable points. But in the modern day, as liberals became neoliberals, it just became like a wholehearted endorsement and defense of capitalism. Liberals are capitalists. Neoliberals are just capitalists within a global governmental framework. I would say the moralists are more meant to be neoliberals, whereas in Disco Elysium, the ultra-liberals are meant to be ultra-capitalists. They believe capitalism is inherently good. They kind of have some overlaps with ANCAP ideology, except they're kind of hypocritical and like they want oligarchs to just kind of be the government. They think billionaires should rule the world. Flowerheart says, I need to research a political perspective of Estonia because given how political this game is, I wonder how it's all connected to politics of the country I made it in. I can tell you at the Game Awards when Disco Elysium won a game, the developers went on stage and said, we would like to thank Karl Marx, which I thought was hilarious. But there's an interesting complication with the ultra-liberals. And that's because in the history of Disco Elysium, when the communists did the revolution, the people in the center here had to pick a side. The moralists and fascists were on this side. The socialists, anarchists, and social democrats, at least some of them, were on this side. Where did the ultra-liberals fall? Well, the ultra-liberals were originally referred to the liberals that sided with the revolution. Not because they agreed politically, but because they thought it was the winning side of the conflict. This is where the people want to be. Let's back them. And when the communist revolution was stopped and the communists were killed to a man and then the anarchists were killed after that, it was the ultra-liberals that were left. It was the ultra-liberals that would that would basically betray the revolution and end up signing a treaty with the moralists to effectively take over Revachol and the area that had used to be the commune. Effectively, the ultra-liberals are class traders. In real life, the term social democrat was effectively kind of the same thing. At least in some uses. Social democrat's a very broad term. But in the context of Disco Elysium, this is the ultra-liberals. The ultra-liberals are, as Joyce says, the vilest of the vile. They supported the revolution, but then betrayed it. Flowerheart says, the thing here is I myself live in a post-Soviet country and the game felt familiar to me, kind of vibes. Yeah, I totally get it. So there's this kind of like double speak that happens with ultra-liberal that I think is reminiscent of how it's kind of a two-faced ideology. Arguably three-faced if you consider the ANCAP implications. So I think that's generally the politics of Disco Elysium. I think it's really interesting. Also, because of this distinction between communism and like real communism, I think like you could roleplay this game as a tanky basically, or you could try to be like a reasonable communist. I tried to play it as a reasonable communist. So I signed up for communism, but when rhetoric's telling me to murder people, I'm like, all right, maybe that's a little far. I love this game. I love it so much. But yeah, I think that's the politics. If anyone watching has any questions, I would be happy to answer those questions. Another really funny thing is every political identity is represented by a skill. Communism is represented by rhetoric because like the whole point is to sell your point to the masses. You have to speak well, which I think is good. Rhetoric was a skill I had a lot of points in. Ultra liberal is represented by savoir faire. Basically, the skills of capitalism comes from your hands, whereas rhetoric comes from your brain and your mouth. Ultra liberal comes from your hands because you're tricky, because capitalism is like a sleight of hand type of thing. Moralism comes from empathy, which is interesting. It's like it comes from your heart. And I think the reason for this is that centrism kind of uses like idpol and like manipulative appeals to emotion to try to justify itself. That's why I think empathy does it. Fascism uses endurance. In the context of the game, it's your stomach. Fascism is literally a gut feeling, which I think is hilarious. It should be noted there is a nationalism ideology in the game, which I would probably just put as like up here or something, which is a little off the table. Okay, well, that's the politics. I thought that was really fun. Let's get to the characters. I have that ready. Okay. So, I am going to do a Disco Elysium tier list and talking about what I believe are the best characters, the worst characters, and everything in between. I am so excited to do this. How many people are watching? I'm curious. Is it anyone? Does anyone care? 4 people? Oh, I was hoping for more. Well, maybe people will watch the VOD. Whatever. Okay. So first, I need to figure out what the tiers are going to be. World of Kiwi says still here. I appreciate that. Thank you. Okay. So, okay, how do I define this? Okay. I'm going to put... Kira says, me, of course. Thank you, sweetie. All right. I'm going to put actively despise. These are... The bottom tier is going to be characters I actually hate. Here, let me change the color to something gnarly. Blue? Dark blue? Oh, I hate that. Now let's do gray. Gray's fine. All right. Next to that, I'm just going to have who. This is going to be for characters I either just don't remember, I didn't interact with, or just I didn't leave an impression on me. Like, who are you? I don't even know. Can you add a row? Oh, you can right there. Okay, and then... Okay, let's add a row. Add a row below. And let's change it to like a light green. Decent? Is there a funnier way I can put that? Like, here, have a beer with. These are characters I'd have a beer with if I was... Oh, is that really how it's going to word wrap? Really? Really? You're not going to word wrap normally, like a normal person? All right, whatever. There. These are people I would hang around. They're decent people. And then above that, we're going to have... I want a detailed conversation with you. Oh man, why do they rap badly? This one rapped fine. What is wrong with you? I think it's because I added a row. I think that actually messed up. Okay, let's try again. Oh, nope. Oh, it's just okay. It didn't. Oh, okay. Technology, right? Flower Heart says, just a small question. Are you in the USA American? Curious because of examples of politics used. Yes, I am American. And I know that means I have like a bias towards American politics, but considering America kind of rules the world, I don't think that's an unreasonable thing to focus on. Of course, don't worry. We are shooting ourselves in the foot as a country, so maybe that won't last too long. We're approaching the Chinese century. Not that China's great, but America seems to be worse these days. What Okay, a detailed conversation. I love you. Okay. And then above that, we're going to have best characters. Oh, let's do it. Literally some of the best characters ever made. There we go. Okay, these are our tiers. Flowerheart said, I mean, just the perspective felt super American. I don't think anything against you. It's just what I've noticed. Look, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for being American. I'm sorry. Okay, so these are the tiers, all right? S, A, B, C, D, F. And I'm going to start first with these skills. So here we have the authority skill, okay? Authority is what it says on the tin. It is about asserting your authority over others. I think one thing that's really clever in this game is if you go down authority, if you embrace authority, authority will say, all right, you have decided to go the road of honor. So do the traditional honor of sticking your thumb up your butt. And the game actually makes you decide whether you're going to literally put your thumb in your butthole. And I think this is such a powerful representation of authority, right? Because people that go down the authority fault line, they probably want to be the dom, right? But no, you're the sub. Authoritarians are some of the most submissive people you'll ever meet because they all think you should listen to a big, strong man. They are collectivists. They want to follow in line behind some grand leader. Only one of them, or their close few, will actually be that leader. The average authoritarian, the majority of them, are submissive. So in choosing to try to be the grand guy, the big guy, the authoritarian, the concept of authority itself tells you, okay, stick your thumb up your butt, submit to me, and then I will maybe give you some of my power. It is the ultimate critique of authoritarianism as a character. I love it, even though I hate him. So I'm going to be like, I want a detailed conversation with the concept of authority. I hate you, but you would be interesting to talk to. I want to debate you and mop the floor with you. All right, here we have composure. Composure is literally, it's one of the dexterity skills, that's why it's yellow. It's literally just being able to hold your frame. I don't really care about composure. Composure's just kind of there. So I'm going to put that under who. I don't even want to have a beer with you. Conceptualization. Conceptualization is kind of my boy. It's the one I picked. I decided to specialize in. Being an art cop, seeing the creativity in the world, genuinely, like, I love art. I love media. I love media analysis and critiques. Obviously, I'm going to have a bias here. Conceptualization can be kind of snobbery and kind of snotty sometimes. That's kind of the downside. A lot of even the good ones have downsides. But honestly, I still love you. You're kind of pretentious, to be honest, but I love you. All right, here we have drama. I don't like drama as a concept. But drama, as in the skill, is really good at telling when people are lying to you. So I feel like that alone, like it's literally like drama lies so much that they know how to tell when people are lying. So being friends with drama is kind of like the devil you know type of thing. I think I would put drama in actively despise, but drama is simply too useful. I need my lie detector. And then we have electrochemistry. Electrochemistry is a skill that basically constantly tells you to try to have sex and do drugs. It is the desire of physical euphoria. It is a toxic influence. obviously indulging in this stuff a little bit isn't really that bad, but the concept itself will only lead you down a bad road. I have no idea what this is, honestly. I just genuinely don't know. What is this? Maybe it's a character you see in the fascist playthrough, which I never did. All right, here we have empathy. I think empathy is a good concept. The fact that empathy represents moralism is kind of my main concern, but I still think the concept of empathy is actually genuinely good. So I'm going to put it under conceptualization. Sometimes you get weaponized for bad ends, but I still think it's good. More people need empathy in the world. Encyclopedia is hilarious. Encyclopedia is just like, do you want facts and lore about this world? And a playthrough with Encyclopedia is always amazing. I highly recommend putting points in this skill. But, and here's the really fabulous part, Encyclopedia will actually take you down the wrong road. There's some times where you have to like engage with someone, and Encyclopedia will be like, did you know that this person is called a blank? And you're like, oh, okay, yeah. Oh, you're a blank. And then rhetoric pops in. That was a slur. There's just so many times where Encyclopedia is actually not helpful, that having these like little fun facts about a situation only distract from actually dealing with it. I love it. It's such a good takedown on like people that are obsessed with like logic and details that aren't even relevant to a situation. So honestly, I love Encyclopedia for that, just because of the humor value. We have endurance here. This is fascism. You go at the bottom. It's not that I inherently hate the concept of endurance, but also I don't really care about endurance as a concept. Being able to withstand things, fine, whatever. Maybe we should just make life easier for people so we don't have to endure so much. Half-Life here, this is your fight or flight response. Half-Life also believes the world is going to end. So, I don't know. I think people have a sour opinion of Half-Life because Half-Life's always telling you to like punch things. But I think at the end of the day, Half-Life's just kind of scared, you know? I don't know. I guess I have some sympathy for Half-Life. So I think I'm going to put Half-Life... I'd have a beer with you. I want to talk. I want to help you out a little bit. Here we have hand-eye coordination. I don't care, honestly. Yeah, I get it. You're good with your hands, whatever. Inland Empire. This is a lot of people's favorite skill. Oh, I'm kind of blocking it. Inland Empire. World of Kiwi says, Half-Life is literally anxiety disorder plus anger issues to me as someone who has both. Yep, yeah, I agree. All right, then we have Inland Empire here. A lot of people's favorite skill. The whole point of Inland Empire is its imagination as a concept. It is like the skill gives you literally imaginary friends. If you put a lot of points in Inland Empire, your Tai becomes a main character and starts talking to you, telling you to do bad things. It is hilarious. It is amazing. I would highly caution against going full Inland Empire because you'll kind of go insane. But I genuinely think it's good to have imagination in this world. Inland Empire should not be your main skill, but it definitely has a place. So I'm going to say, I love you, but I'm concerned. Yeah, I'm concerned. All right, who else we got? We have interfacing here, which is a dexterity skill for interfacing with like electronics. I don't care about most of the dexterity skills, but I can put this one a bit higher. A lot of know-how is involved with this one, technical knowledge. All right. And here we have pain threshold, which talks about how much pain you can dish out. This is very much a Who situation. I don't feel strongly about this skill. I will put it right there. And then we have... Oh my goodness, what was this one again? Oh, this is perception. Okay. I did not think perception was very important. There was a long point of the game where I literally had 0 perception. which I thought was kind of funny. I didn't really mind missing some content. This is a game where you're not really supposed to do everything in a single playthrough anyway. However, I actually got stuck in the game at one point. There is a game where you have to kind of figure out where the killer is, and I knew out of character where the killer was, but because my guy hadn't perceived the location, I couldn't go there. And it made me actually stuck. I was forced to put a skill point in something. Some people play Disco Elysium putting skill points in things when it's necessary. I think that's a terrible way to play. I genuinely don't think it's fun. Build your character how you want your character to be and just see which things you succeed and fail on. But this was a point where I was forced to engage in that, and I didn't care for that. So I'm going to be honest, I have personal resentment towards perception. I'm going to put you at the top of actively despise. I hate my eyes that don't work well. Obviously, if you're really good at perception, you won't have that problem, but I still resent that I even need you. Get out of here. Okay. Here we have the concept of reaction speed. It's kind of like the concept of agility. Nice to have, but I don't want to have a beer with the concept of agility. I'll put you under interfacing, I guess. And then, we have, what is this? Oh, physical instrument. This is just your ability to be very strong and use tools effectively with like a baseball bat or just your fists, stuff like that. A crowbar. Crowbar comes up a lot. This is going to be a Who situation. I don't have strong feelings on the order here, but that's the order I'm going to go with. Then we have savoir-faire. Okay, savoir-faire is really interesting because it's a stealth skill and also a capitalism skill. Savoir-faire represents capitalism because your trickery. You're not smart. Your worldview doesn't actually make sense, but you don't care because it's all about just doing whatever you can to ensure you're on top. Because of this, I think it's kind of like authority. I want to have a conversation with you. I hate you, but you're interesting. In fact, I think you're more interesting than authority. Representing capitalism, one of the greatest evils? Yes, I will debate you. Okay, who else we got? We have... Okay, this one's a strange one. Esprit de corps. Oh, sorry, hold on. Worley Kiwi says, savoir-faire is the manifestation of the phrase, the invisible hand of the free market. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Esprit de corps is a psyche skill that is about, like, intuitively understanding your cop brothers. It's basically the cop culture skill. So... it's not a skill the average person would have, but you playing as a cop, you have this. If you weren't a cop, I'd maybe supplant this with some type of community skill, knowing your community. And it just happens in this game, your community is cops. I didn't put any points in this because I was deliberately leaning away from being a cop. I was kind of playing as a cop with imposter syndrome. Like I woke up one day and found out I was a cop and I can't tell anyone I'm a fraud type of thing. It's kind of funny. This actually worked in my favor. A lot of people play Disco Elysium telling everyone they have amnesia at the beginning. I kept that crap to myself because I knew it would backfire. And indeed it does! When you get your first big lead on the killer that did the lynching, if you spoke and told them about your amnesia, which the majority of players do, then you're at a disadvantage. I didn't have that disadvantage when I was interrogating her. So, I don't know. I guess this is my least favorite of the purple skills, of the psyche skills. But as a psyche skill, I care more than these other ones. Okay, who else we got? Oh, rhetoric. Oh, I love rhetoric. Honestly, do I love rhetoric more than conceptualization? It does represent communism. And I think communism is based in its, like, in certain forms of it. It depends on the form, obviously, but... Oh, DeFry says, did you all hear about the new animated Homestuck trailer? Indeed, we did. I talked about it earlier when I was discussing a bunch of Homestuck drama. Despite the drama, though, I am still excited for it, and I would have just simply played the whole trailer on stream if I wasn't worried about being copyrighted. But I don't know. Rhetoric is really cool. Rhetoric can be very amoral, though. Rhetoric is just about trying to be persuasive and understand the flaws in people's arguments. I know it goes at least above empathy. I like empathy. Empathy is good. I guess rhetoric can be a bit devious, though. Okay. Empathy goes above it. Okay, these are my priorities in life. I like art. Art is one of the reasons to live. Empathy is another reason to live, care for other human beings. And rhetoric is an important tool in understanding art and empathy. DeFry says, well, fair. I mean, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. But, like, yeah, I did already talk about it. But you can look at the VOD and, you know, go back and see it. I had some hot takes. All right, next we have Shivers. Shivers is a very strange skill. It is a physical one that's red. It's kind of about the feeling that tingles your spine. You might think of it as a sort of like physical intuition, but it's very involved with like religious symbolism in the game. You hear the voice of the city, but the voice is a deific figure. You might be wondering, does Disco Elysium have supernatural things? And honestly, yes, that's Shivers, but it's kind of just Shivers. Shivers is the supernatural skill. Like, I struggle to say, like, it's just straight up magic, because I feel like you could try to make a real world interpretation, but it's also just kind of magic. It's interesting. It's definitely have a beer with. In fact, I think it's detailed conversation. Top of detailed conversation. I'm too confused about you to say I love you, but I really want to talk with you. All right, and then we have Suggestion. Now, I mentioned rhetoric can be a little manipulative, but Suggestion is the straight up manipulation. Suggestion is you get people to do what you want. I think it's interesting that they decided to frame what is normally considered a good skill in RPGs, like, oh, my speech skill, my persuasion skill. Disco Elysium says you are a manipulator. But, you know, manipulation can be done for good ends. Like, let's talk about sexual propriety. If there's a girl you want to have sex with, and you're in a relationship with her, and you ask to have sex with her, and she says, nah, don't feel like it. Is it manipulative for you to respond with, aw, are you sure? I'm free tonight, but I'm not going to be free again for the next 2 weeks. I think some people might argue you're manipulating. You didn't take no for an answer. But I think also a lot of people would say that's a reasonable response, just double checking, are you sure? And giving a persuasive reason why it would be beneficial to do it tonight, as opposed to waiting for a future time that might not come. So this, I think, would be an example of a reasonable situation where you have used suggestion, you have used manipulation, but only in like the technical sense. You're not being manipulative. You're just providing extra context to give them a more informed decision. If they still said no and you kept pushing it, that crosses a moral line for me, but I don't think that the situation I have described has yet crossed that line. So I think this is kind of what Disco Elysium is going for. Suggestion in small doses can just be a good way to get what you want out of people by giving arguments or knowing their mental states to know where you should pursue. I know describing it clinically like that sounds bad, but like, imagine if actually, you know what? No, I'm going to try a different argument. I think it's fine to look out for yourself sometimes. Being selfish isn't inherently bad. You should look out for others, but you also have to practice self-care, and sometimes that's making sure you get what you want out of life. In the example I gave, I don't think you're violating that your partner's consent. You are just advocating for yourself with a reasonable argument. Again, take no for an answer, but I think it's okay to follow up with a, are you sure? You know? Obviously, a lot of this comes down to the context and the way you give it. I don't know. I feel like I'm over-explaining it. So I'm going to say suggestion is a thing that's evil in high doses, but is moderate. It can be useful. So I'm going to say have a beer with you. You're better than Half-Light, but you're not better than my lie detector. Okay, what else we got? Visual calculus. This is just like your ability to like imagine things in your mind and visualize physical space. It's a very useful thing, but it's very pragmatic, not very interesting in my opinion. I think you're too useful to ignore, but I don't really care about you that much. You're at the bottom of have a beer with. Reluctantly. And then we have volition. Volition is straight up your boy. Volition has your back. Volition, every time you falter, even when probably they shouldn't. They probably shouldn't have your back. You bleeped up. You effed up. And Volition is there anyway. Volition, I love you. In fact, you go right under rhetoric, okay? Believe in art, believe in other people, believe in your ability to construe thoughts, and believe in yourself. And that is all of the skills. All right, let's get into characters. There's going to be a lot of characters I don't have strong feelings about, so warning about that. Okay. This girl, I don't even remember their names. I might not remember a lot of these names. If I don't remember their names, just take that as how I don't feel strongly about them. This girl is a member of a group of punks, but she's kind of one of the most reasonable members of that group. She's interested in doing drugs, and she's interested in doing a hardcore music thing. She is fine. I'd have a beer with her. You go between these two skills. This guy, he is a member of the Hardy Boys. The Hardy Boys is a group of union members that first come off as a group of, to use a loaded term, thugs. And you find out basically they're kind of like the union cops. They are the militia. They are the people, they are the us protecting us. By the end of the game, they're pretty awesome. And depending on how you play the game, not all of them will survive. So they're kind of tragic at the same time. Any Hardy Boy immediately goes to the third tier. Yeah, you're not as interesting as these skills, but what's your name? You're here. I forget what his name is. All right, here we have the dispatch agent. Gonna be honest, don't really care about her. I forget what her name is. Unless Reness, I forget. She's a girl working for the bookstore. She's pretty cool. She's just a decent human being, and she's doesn't have a good mom. I love how you can talk to her and ask her what crime is, and she'll actually answer your questions. So I'm gonna be honest, you're even nicer than my lie detector. I like you. This guy, Fat Angus, that's what they call him. I don't like the way they kind of fat shame him, to be honest. It's kind of strange. But he is a member of the Hardy Boys, so he goes up here. But here's the thing, spoilers, obviously. In the game, when trouble comes for the Hardy Boys, he shows up. He literally uses his fat body as a bullet shield to protect his bros. You know what? Respect. I love you, man. You used that fat. Based. All right. Here we have the working class woman. She has a storyline about her gone husband that's kind of sad and tragic. It's hard not to feel for her in that. But the moment with the working class woman that I really liked was you can just give her a random hug. And normally that's kind of a creepy thing to do. Go up to a random woman and give her a hug. But if you have the skills, you can tell there is something wrong with her. There is something eating at her. So you go up to her and you give her a hug, and she lets you. She's a bit surprised. She's a working class woman, though. She has sympathy towards communism. So I actually said, and this might sound crazy, it was a risk, but I went for it. She says, why are you doing this? And I say, for the working class. And she just sighs and goes, for the working class. And it was just the most beautiful human moment. I let go of her after that, let her go about her day. And it's like, obviously just going up and hugging a random person in a lot of context is going to be a creepy thing to do. But shouldn't we live in a world where it isn't? Shouldn't we live in a world where we can just have friendly touching? You touch someone's shoulder, you pat their back, you give them a hug. Wouldn't that be a better world? Maybe we don't live in that world, but we should. So I like her. I am going to put her at the top of have a beer with. All right. Here we have Call Me Mañana. He is a representative of the union, of kind of like a lazy guy that just is happy to be on strike. I think he's generally pretty cool. He's a bit ineffectual, like he's a bit nihilistic, but he seems cool. I would like a detailed conversation with him. I'll put him above the Hardy Boy. This guy is a member of the moralist government. He is one of the most evil characters in the whole game. What's his name? Moralist. Oh. Who is that guy? They have the icon for it. So it must have something to do with the moralist ending. I don't know. Interesting. That's a character I'm not familiar with. I don't know everything about this game. I need to know what that moralist character's name is. Government guy? No. Why is there so much AI? I hate it. Sunday friend. That's what he's called sometimes. This character broke me. Alright, I don't know who this YouTube person is, so I'm just going to skip to the relevant part.
A killer, like a heart disease blocking the normal circulation of the economy. It must be controlled. The economy impacts the entire international community, which is why it requires international oversight.
Politics guy. I knew it. I had him pegged
He's a member of the government, not just a politics guy.
from the very start. Okay, but what are you doing here in this apartment?
Well, I'm renovating it.
Let me skip ahead.
That clears everything
It's
up.
the central goal of any sound monetary policy.
Preisstabilité.
It is keep inflation just below 2%.
2% of what?
But not too far below. No. Too below is also bad. Below.
Yeah.
But close.
Look, it's giving me the perfect... You're not answering my questions at all.
The coalition believes in the importance of...
Yeah, so he starts doing propaganda, explaining why moralism is good and why controlling the economy and managing is just so difficult. We have to really fudge the numbers here. We just it's so much and it's infuriating. You can ask him questions and details on his situation, and he just straight up will not answer you. He just bulldozes and keeps talking. He is a politician. He is vile. Honestly, yes, he is worse than the concept of fascism because he is a human being, and I expect better of humanity. All right. This guy is one of your fellow cops. I do not feel strongly about your fellow cops in this game. Part of this is because I was playing as an imposter cop. Your partner, Kim, tells you should call the station and tell him you lost your gun, your badge, and you're basically an F-up. I never did that. So when the cops show up, they're like, dude, where have you been? Most people, it's actually the opposite. You're like, dude, where have you guys been? You were supposed to back me. I wanted really nothing to do with the cops. And they laugh at you, which is kind of funny. You kind of deserve it. The cops in Disco Elysium are actually more justified than American cops. American cops are just kind of like fascists most of the time. But in Disco Elysium, the RCM, which is the cop force, Revachol Citizens Militia, it's interesting. You find out near the end of the game, they descend from a communist militia. So Disco Elysium kind of makes the points that the cops are the ones who decide your society, that they are the ones that can make or break your attempt at revolution, which is interesting. I feel like America's cops are long gone, but they are supporting fascism, and we are delving into fascism. It makes me wonder if we could somehow get the cops on our side. Would that maybe be a path towards a better society? I don't like police as an institution, obviously, but we have it. So now what? It's a nuanced take. But I don't care about cops. They go under who? We have Cindy the Skull here. Cindy is the anarchist character. She's one of the few anarchists you get to meet. She's part of a gang too. She's really interesting. I really like her kind of flippant critiques. It's not that she doesn't care. She is nihilist, but she's not resigned to nihilism. It's just the world happens to be really bleak. But even in that bleakness, she tries. And in so doing, I feel like she represents a lot of the core themes of this game. One issue I have with her, though, is she's 17. I don't understand why they decided to make this character underage, and you only find out like partway through interacting with her. I've complained about making minor characters before, and I just don't see what that adds to her character. I thought she was really cool and based, and then I find out she's literally still technically a kid, and seriously, I don't like that. So I'll have a conversation with you, but you go under the Hardy Boys. Here we have a poor old woman that's sick in charge of the apartments. I feel bad for her, but I don't feel strongly about her. I'll put her above the cops. I will get back to you. Another Hardy Boy. This is Shanky. He's also a coward. He runs away in some versions of events. I can't just ignore that cowardice, but I also kind of understand it at the same time. I'll have a beer with you. I'm sympathetic, but you're the exception to the Hardy Boys. You weren't reliable. I actually don't know who this guy is. Bottom of who? Or that guy. You will be later? This is just some drunk guy who barely has anything to say. I don't know what this is, genuinely. I didn't do the moralist ending, so it has something to do with the moralist ending. Worldly Kiwi says, maybe Cindy's age is there for like teenage maximalism or something. I don't know. Maybe the devs have some mild anti-anarchist sentiments. I don't think the age was meant to be a critique. I think she is kind of meant to be a punk type of thing. I just don't feel like making her underage does anything for the story. So why not just have her be an adult woman that has consciously chosen anarchism in the face of extreme poverty? I think part of this might be because she's a cool anarchist lady, and like obviously a cool anarchist lady is something you might be attracted to, you know? But you can't be because underage, even though it didn't look like it. So it's just, I found that a little frustrating. Here we have Elizabeth. She is such a cool character. So you originally meet her as just a random gardener, and she's just hanging around. But on day 2, you find out she is a spy for the Union. And not just that, she went to law school. She is a based class traitor. She is literally a class traitor on the side of the Union. She went to law school to know how to weaponize the law to protect the boys. She is effectively a Hardy Boy. She is antagonistic to you the whole game, but you deserve it. You're kind of terrible, and you're a cop. Can you blame her? So, you know what? I love you. I'm going to put you above Fat Angus. I'm sorry, Fat Angus. Again, you gave your life, but she did too, just in a slower way. Here we have Lily. Lily is the guy that is lynched at the beginning of the game. He is the murder victim that you are investigating. And there's a genuine sympathy for him of like, you were murdered, dude. I feel bad for you. You were left in this state. And as you learn more about him, you realize he was the leader of this militia group. And as the leader, he's actually one of the more defensible members. He preferred to resolve things by talking when not given the opportunity. And then you dig a bit deeper and you find out some of the things he has done. And it is some of the most horrifying things I have ever seen in a video game. I don't think I can even talk about it. I wouldn't even want to. It is terrible. He was the best of the worst, and the worst were really bad. He goes at the bottom so far. Actively despise him, even though he's the best of the mercenaries. This guy is another anarchist like Cindy, except he's also like a college student. He's interested in anarchism, doesn't really understand it, wants to be a member of the gang. He is hilarious. He and his buddy's around here somewhere. I don't remember what his buddy... maybe it was one of these guys. I just didn't recognize him. Skulls. Let's look at this. Yeah, okay. Here's the skulls. That guy. Okay. All right, listen to this. Oh no, this is before they did voice acting for the game. Crap.
Inherently meaningless. The world, but steadily moving towards basing the economy differences. The world. Things being defined.
Okay, you ask him why he has this like slur on his jacket, and here's his actual explanation. Okay, let me back up.
Statement and not necessarily something that characterizes me as a person, even though the statement has character. And I do like piss.
I was wondering.
The word piss epitomizes the struggle taking place in the world. Things being defined as they seem, not as they are. And I guess it's also about communal spirit, the future, and truly appreciating our differences.
Yeah, I ain't here to king shame you, although I will say your weird one-leg rolled-up red stocking is kind of...
Also, you gotta admit, it catches the eye. And
Not
since
gonna
the
lie, it
Grand
does.
Piper is slowly but steadily moving towards basing the economy on it, attention, it is imperative that the medium itself convey the message.
So you see, like, they're like extremely thoughtful about this like gang stuff, you know? Like, it's like, yeah, we are anarchists because we actually believe that the state is inherently an unjust hierarchy. Like, it's kind of making fun of the like well-meaning, you know, fight the system people that are also completely incapable of fighting the system with anything except for their words. They should be writing papers, not like trying to actively like throw a Molotov. At least they're not prepared to throw a Molotov. I genuinely find them hilarious. They will argue in favor of like using these slurs. They'll talk about like the narrative meaning. It's hilarious. Average 4 disliker says, "Ayo, hello," going over Disco Elysium characters. So this guy is funny. I'm gonna put them right under Cindy. Let me go ahead and get their boy too. Where's the other guy at? I don't see him. Oh, there he is. Yeah, let's get you right under there too. Also, there's an interesting thing with Disco Elysium where they censor the F slur. I actually don't agree with this. I think there's room in art to say slurs. If you're showing a white guy in antebellum America and he uses the N-word, like that's realistic for the time. I think you can make art with that being the case. Wolfenstein famously did this in one of their games, although that was a different slur, obviously. So I feel like it's weird that they have slurs in this game, racial slurs, but they censored the real world one. I think this was largely done for like Twitch purposes or whatnot, but yeah, I just genuinely think they should have committed, or if for some reason that word was just off limits, they should have just made up a fake replacement. Average 4 disliker says making plans right now for campaign. Oh, like a D&D thing or TTRPG. Good luck. So yeah, all right. Next we have this guy, Theo, I think. He's another Hardy Boy, so Hardy Boys are based. Yeah, he'll go under the other guy, because I don't remember that much, but Hardy Boy. I will come back to you. We have the Frit girl. She's just doing her job. I can't care about her that much. Gary the Crypto Fascist. Maybe he has more in the fascist plot line of the game, but I never went down it, so I didn't get to interact with him that much. It's kind of interesting that he works with other people that aren't fascist and they just don't realize it. But he's a pretty terrible person. I'm going to put him here. He's not as bad as this guy because he's pretty ineffectual in the world, but he's a fascist, so he goes between the concept of fascism and the government. World of Kiwi says, nature of predators has not exactly a slur, but a derogatory term with the same meaning. Tail raiser. All right. Like I said, I would have been fine with that. I feel like censoring the F slur, though, was a strange compromise that isn't used anywhere else in the game. All right. This guy, I have to come back to you, too. All right. Here we have Old Doom Spiral. This is a homeless man who is a straight up capitalist. And you can ask him his story, and it's contradictory. He still believes in capitalism despite failing at it. But if you ask him his story, there's a horrible thing you realize. He talks about how he used to be very successful, but he lost his keys one day, got locked out of his house, had to go get help, and things just started spiraling from there. And it paints the story of like one mistake one day can snowball until you lose everything. And you realize if you really go into detail on this character, it's not just one day spiraled into the bad day for the rest of his life. He has dementia. Oh, I should probably close Steam. There we go. He has dementia, and it's because of this specific suit he insists on wearing, which seems to be like carcinogenic or something like that. And he wears it all the time, so it eats away at him. It's a toxic substance. And he was so big into wearing it all these years, he has early onset dementia. He forgets things. He forgot his keys. He forgot where he lives. And you realize his story is one of tragedy, of mental illness. And I feel so bad for him. Just like he is a capitalist who failed, who doesn't even realize that he's failed. I want a detailed conversation with him. Honestly, he's more interesting than the concept of capitalism. All right, come back to you. All right, we have this guy. He's the embodiment of hardcore music. He's kind of a joke character. I really don't care. I'll put him there, above the Frit girl. This guy is your cop partner. He's in disguise here in this picture, in case you can't tell. I think I'm just going to not use the disguise version of him. Let's move this to the end. And I'll just go ahead and rank him. He is a cop. I don't really care about the cops, but he is your partner. So he's the most important cop character. Sorry, he's your partner before the game starts, like your old partner. I guess I would talk to him. He's one of the more interesting cops. I think I could turn him into a communist. I think I could fix him. All right, here we have Glenn Hardy Boy, also one of the best Hardy Boys. Yeah, he gives his life. This guy is just kind of a cook. He works for the union. Don't really care. Just doing his job. There. That's fine. This is you. This is Harry, the main character. And obviously, by the nature of that and the fact you play as him, I don't know. I loved him, but I loved my version of him. Harry could just as easily become a bad person, so it's hard to really say. I'll say I'd have a top of have a beer with, because Harry's an enigma. He could become anything. Although, you know what? Maybe I would want a detailed conversation. See what makes him tick. but I'll put you below Shivers. You're kind of like Doom Spiral. Whirly Kiwi says, I always loved the juxtaposition of the... spoilers. We'll get to that. We'll get back to you. This old woman is like basically just a nice old woman who gives you a place to stay. That might not sound like much, but in the game when you're near homeless and you're being charged exorbitant amounts of money to be able to stay for the night anywhere, having a woman that just straight up lets you stay at her place for free, it's a godsend. It is so much. So, I'm going to put her under I Love You. Like, she's not at the top, but like, I am indebted. You gave a homeless person a place to stay. They were a cop, yes, but still, I still think that's valuable. Circle back. This guy, what's his name? Old Tommy or something? I made him mad, and I felt bad about that. I'd have a beer with you. Not as interesting as the working class woman, but I felt bad. This is another cop. She's actually more sympathetic towards you, but otherwise I still don't really feel that strongly about her. Here's another cop who's the radio operator. Again, don't feel strongly. This guy is another hardcore music fan. Don't feel strongly about him either. This girl is a racist groupie. So, yeah, I'm going to put her at the top of actively despise. I hate her, but only a little. Let's see. I'm trying to get the more unimportant characters out of the way to get to the really hard parts. Because there's going to be some characters that are actually hard to rank for me. This guy is a member of the Union. He's just a decent guy. He's very talkative. He's nice. I'll put him above the kid. This woman. What's her name? Claire something? What was the boat lady? Oh, I closed the other tab. Disco Elysium boat lady. No, not that boat. Different boat lady. Okay. The other boat lady. Lillian. Thank you. Oh, it doesn't. No, some of these just don't have dialogue. Disco, Elysium, Lillian. I just want to get a bit of her voice, you know?
Be careful out there. Stroll, nay?
You should say something.
Common Revacholian expression, nay?
I want to get more of her
A sudden
dialogue.
gust picks up.
It's usually towards sunset, when the water is warmer.
The sun also falls over your reverie.
Also, the narration in this game is
The
amazing.
sun in yellow and all of the gulls may be reflected.
Full organization or government. How can that be?
So her entire character is kind of like she's stuck. She is one of the most successful of the impoverished people in that, like, she kind of has kids and a home, but she's not successful by any means. She's just a mother trying to get by. Her husband was taken from her. And she just kind of drifts. She doesn't know what to do with life. She's kind of in this interesting juxtaposition of like living for the moment and also nihilism. I'd say maybe she's an absurdist character where there's a tragedy in her, but also at the same time, she doesn't really let it keep her down. She keeps a lot of her emotions bottled up, and you have an opportunity to go on a date with her. Kind of, not really. But I really liked that scene because I really felt like I got to see her. She's just a very nuanced character for someone who is very struggling. And through her, I think you get to see a lot of the poorer side of Revachol. I liked her. So let's put I think I kind of loved her in a way, more than the old woman. Yeah, I think that's where I'm going to put her. All right, who else we got? Her children, I'm going to be honest, I didn't really care about her kids. They're just some kids. Like, they're not mean, but like you don't really get to bond with them either. Here's another kid, her third kid. She's cuter than the other two, I guess. Look, I don't hate children, so let's just put them up here. They're nice kids for what they're worth. Okay. Maybe I should move them up, since I... Alright, you know what? Bottom of here. I would have a beer with these children. Here we have a woman who's genuinely mentally ill and tries to kill you. I have to put her at top of actively despise. I feel sympathy for her, but she's actually a menace, a danger to society. She needs help. Just because I despise her doesn't mean I don't think she needs help. This guy, who... this woman is a landlord. She's pretty awful. I'll put her above fascism, but she's really terrible. She just is kind of a financial parasite. This guy is another cop. We'll put him in the cop gang. Don't know this person. Some kid. Don't care. I'm not really sure what this is meant to be. Another cop guy. He's also kind of mean. Let's see. This guy, oh, I hate this guy. This guy is he's one of the punk people, but he's deliberately deceiving you into running a drug den. I actually didn't get to do all of that quest where you get to really see the cool stuff that happens in the church, because I found out he was lying to me right away and I just shut him down. So I felt a bit more personal about hating him. This isn't even about ideology. I just hate how much he lied to me. For like no real purpose. I mean, besides making drugs. I did not like him at all. This woman is an abusive mother towards this girl here. She's also really terrible. So I'm going to put hate for personal reasons even more. You might be like, well, Kyle, do you think these are terrible characters or you just hate them? I don't feel like Disco Elysium has a lot of terrible characters and like terribly written. So this is more of like an emotional thing for me. I know this is going on long. There's just a lot of characters here. All right, who else we got? Racist lorry driver. Yeah, he's pretty bad. I'll put him next to the other racist. Who else we got? I'm trying to get the easier ones out of the way. Oh, this guy, I don't care about this guy. Don't know that person. This woman is in charge of like a D&D group, basically. But she's also kind of annoying. I honestly just didn't like her. She's very dispassionate, and it's all for the grand project, but I don't believe that grand project will ever... I don't know. I really didn't like her. This woman, Sylvie, is a bartender that your character actively abuses. I felt so bad and was so apologetic to her. I want to make things right. So I'm going to put you right here above this girl, but below my lie detector. Okay. This guy is Roy, and he's in charge of the pawn shop. He has an interesting backstory regarding a nuclear meltdown. And one of the cool things about it is it's called the People's Pile. So a lot of people presume, oh, the meltdown is, it's like Chernobyl. It's the communists' fault. But you actually find out the meltdown only happened after the communists were all killed. It was actually run successfully, at least as far as we know, during the communist era. It was the moralist that caused the meltdown of the People's Pile, and this guy suffers for it. I'd have a beer with him. He's cool. In fact, you know what? Detailed conversation. I would like to know more about you. But you're not quite Hardy Boy material, so you go at the bottom here. Okay, who else we got? This guy is another drunk. I don't care about him, but he's more interesting than this drunk. This guy is like a salesman. I forget what his name is. Salim, I think. He's kind of entertaining in that he's so clearly just going to say whatever he thinks will make you happy, but it's very obvious he's doing that. He is like the best, worst salesman you can imagine. I'd have a beer with him. I think he'd be fun, even though I couldn't trust a word he says. So I am going to put him above Sylvie, actually, just because I think it'd be a fun time. This guy is horrible. He is meant to be a psychologist, and you find out that he's actually plotting against you working with your former partner. And he's not only that, he's a moralist or an ultra-liberal, I forget. He's a centrist. He doesn't stand for anything. He doesn't care about anything. I actually actively despise him. I'm going to put him next to the landlord. Here we have old Leo, Hardy Boy, and he's a pretty based Hardy Boy. You can kind of tell that he's the one, like, most experienced. He might not be in charge of them, but he is the wisest among them. Yeah. All right, who else we got? I don't remember this person. This guy was a dead guy, so I'm not going to really count him as a character. Oh, this guy, I remember him. He was one of the communists. Was there another one that was with him that I'm forgetting? Is there another communist here? Where's this communist buddy? Did I accidentally throw him up here somewhere? Wait, was this him? No. Okay. Wait, how did... Oh, I was on... That's on... Okay. Disco Elysium... Communists? These guys, yes.
But...
Okay, that was the other one. I forget him, so I'll group him with them. Where is he? Here. Okay. So these two guys are two communist students that you can meet up with, and it's a really interesting conversation. They are completely useless. They are the tanky adjacent online users that just like spout theory. They even talk about this version of communism that's kind of like Lysenkoism, where they actually think you can alter how like plants grow by doing it in a communist fashion. There is an interesting bit where, because this is an alternate reality, it implies that that might actually be kind of possible here, but obviously that sounds ridiculous. I don't endorse that in real life. But one thing I actually liked about them that showed a lot of humanity is if you are yourself a communist, you can come to them with your actual like base stories of doing praxis in the world, and they gobble it up. They listen to it. You can basically show them the error of their ways and show them that there's a broader world out there, other type of literature besides just communist literature that they should be reading. They're not good people, but I think it's really cool that if you come to them as a real communist, you can like bring them to a better light, create a genuine functional friend group. There's potential here. I would want to have a detailed conversation with these guys. Let me put them below Harry. I think that's the place to go. Below Harry, above Doom Spiral. Although I don't like this one as much. He just doesn't talk as much as the other guy. Okay, you know what? Doom Spiral goes more. Capitalism, authority, but there you guys go. Okay, who do we have next? The gay guy. I forget what his name is. He talks about having a Sunday friend a lot, and he's the one that hooks you up with this guy. I don't like him, to be honest. In my opinion, he's not much better than this guy. I don't blame someone for being like a sex worker that has meetings with really bad politicians. I get you have to make your life, but he never makes any statements of actual volition. Like, he doesn't stand for anything. He doesn't give me anything to outweigh his association. So I feel like all I have to go on is his association. I'll put him above the really reprehensible characters, though. Yeah, there we go. Let's see. This woman, she's like just a telecom worker. I don't have strong opinions on her, but she is nice when you talk to her. I'd have a beer with you. Put you above the kids. And let's see. We'll put you at the bottom of who? Almost. Okay, we're getting to the hard ones. So I talked about the militia guys. Here's all of the other militia members. I think that's all of them, yeah. These are the militia. This guy pretends to be a strike breaker, or a protester against the strike, I should say. And I love how they use the character as commentary on a lot of people that are like corporate plants that are meant to like rabble rouse. He is horrible, and once you unmask him, he's a straight up murderer, and again, worse things that I cannot talk about. Genuinely evil. So I'm going to put him above Lely just because Lely could talk. Part of the reason he's so evil is because he's mad Lely was murdered, his brother. You have this woman, and she's just drunk Lady Merc. She's not as bad as this guy, I guess, but I don't really have much else to say about her. This guy here, he is just a straight up assassin. He almost says nothing to you. He is death itself. Look at that picture. He is just straight up death. And you know what? I kind of respect the honesty. I'm going to be honest. He doesn't torture. He just kills. These guys torture. He just kills. So I'm going to put him above the rest of them. All right. Who else we got? Oh, I missed logic. How did I miss logic? This is a skill. Okay. I feel like logic's a lot like visual calculus, just with like logical arguments. Useful to have. Honestly, more useful than a lie detector. But I don't really want to have a detailed conversation with the concept of logic. I feel like that'd actually be kind of boring. And you know what? I like having... no, okay. Logic goes here. All right, who else we have? Oh, this guy. This guy is the same guy as here, so I'll show his true picture here. All right. Whew. Okay, we're getting to the important characters now. This guy gives you a lot of intel on Harry. He's an amnesiac, like yourself, and he becomes super religious. I'd have a beer with him. I don't care about him that much, though. He just kind of repeats a lot of DeLorean religious thought. Okay, sorry, this is actually getting a little stressful now. All right, here we have Gart. Gart is the cafe manager. He basically represents the petit bourgeois. So he's overtly against your side. He is capitalist, but he also is kind of sympathetic. You know, like he's not the same as like the bourgeoisie. You know. I think I'd have a beer with you. I'll put you above the other capitalist guy. This woman here is a novelty dice maker. Not that important, but she just casually knows that capitalism is evil. Her plot line is that of the doomed commercial district, where she just talks about the ravages of capitalism. And so, yeah, I would like to have a detailed conversation with her. I'll put her above the other communists because she knows what she's talking about. In fact, she's so reasonable. I want to put her right under Shivers. All right. Whew. This woman is a woman who has been corrupted by the Pale. It's kind of complicated to talk to her, but I would want to try. She's not well, but she has seen things. I'll put her here. There we go. Okay. Stressed out here a little bit. This is Ruby. She's a member of the Hardy Boys, and she tries to kill you. She is terrified of you. She's a plot important character, but she's so skittish that I just feel like she's more of a plot device than a really fleshed out character. I'll put her at the bottom of Have a Beer With. I want to know more about her, but I just don't know a lot about her, you know? Okay. I know this has been going on long. I haven't had any comments in a while, so I hope you guys are enjoying this. Titus Hardy is the leader of the Hardy Boys. He is their face. He looks, or he appears intimidating and terrible, but he is based. He is the platonic ideal of a cop. And for that, I actually have a lot of respect for him. I think he has to go in I Love You. He goes above even Elizabeth. Not as high as the skills, but I kind of love him by the end of the story. He puts his life on the line for the community, and that is respectable. This guy here is a billionaire. You get to meet a billionaire once in the game, and there's this cool thing where in this world, if there's a dramatic disparity of net worth from like someone with billions of dollars to someone with almost nothing to their name, they literally bend light and affect the fabric of the universe. He is so far beyond you, you can't even look at him directly. He is horrible. He goes right above the mercs, right below the government. He is an oligarch. Okay. We are left with some of the most important characters. Let's do the cryptozoologist. No, I can't. I can't do him yet. Okay, let me group these characters to figure out how I'm going to talk about them. Okay, Renee, Gaston, Avart, Kuno S. Dolores, she's kind of a concept. Crypto guys. No, I can't. Yeah, Crypto goes here. Clausia, it goes here. Joyce. Joyce. Joyce goes here. I'll put you before these. Okay. All right, I got a plan of action here. First, we have Dolores Day, which is literally this world's version of Jesus Christ. She is the representative of their religion, and in their religion, they value the lungs more than the heart, which is kind of interesting. She's also kind of a stand-in for the love interest that your character Harry lost, simply because she has a similar name, and also because he kind of looks at her like one would look at Jesus. He is obsessed with her in a very incel-y, like broken heart sort of way. World of Kiwi says, you know the world's good when it's got its own Jesus. Yeah, like Homestuck. She is interesting, but she's more of a concept than a character. But despite being the representation of Jesus, when you talk to her in the game, it's in a dream sequence where she says things Harry's ex said. So there's this weird blending of two separate characters. Because of this, I feel like it's hard to evaluate this as like literally Jesus or the ex. It's kind of a combination of the two. I want a detailed conversation, but I'm confused. You go at the bottom. Although I am interested in the world building. Okay, sorry, you're too interesting. I'm confused, but you're interesting. There. I'll put Jesus under authoritarianism. I'll put ex-Jesus under authoritarianism. All right. Here we have Kuno and Kuno S. Kuno is the worst child you have ever met. And Kuno S is his even worse girlfriend. They defile dead bodies. They curse. They do drugs. This girl has literally killed someone. These characters are... Disco Elysium is like, what if we give you a child that you wanted to kill? It is the only time I have seen in a video game of people like arguing in favor of shooting a kid. They are the worst. And I don't think obviously you should do that, but they are that bad. I was watching Wooly versus playthrough where he was a lot more hostile to the kids than I was in my game. Genuinely, he and his buddy Reggie pointed a gun towards this girl because they were so sick of her crap of just constantly slurring at them and saying horrible things, literally falsely accusing them of rape. And so they point a gun at her and she goes, "Go ahead, set me free." And it's like, oh my goodness, what? I don't even know how to feel here. They are horrible people, but I can't despise them. They are just too interesting to despise. I do hate them, but I don't just hate them. I want to have a detailed conversation with them. And they are... You find them early in the game. They're kind of one of the best parts of the game, in my opinion. Yep. I'm sorry, Dice Maker. You're better, but these people are content. All right. Measurehead. Let's get to Measurehead. Please tell me this has voiceover.
Noble and powerful race. You gave the world eugenics, electricity, and powerful weapons of war like missiles and aerostatic aircraft. You made great gains in metallurgy, race theory, and statecraft. You dominated lesser cultures like the deformed Hemians and the inexplicably potato-obsessed Quakers. But now your ascent to the genetic summit has halted. You are obsessed with sadness and with frivolous pop culture. You will be superseded. Isn't that right, babe?
Measurehead is the ultimate racist. He is the concept of racism incarnate. And as such, he is fundamentally absurd. He is scientific racism. He literally has the lines of, what's it called? What's the race pseudoscience? Crap, what's it? I forget the name of it. Palage. What's it called? Word Kiwi says Measurehead is 33 mini Hitlers in a trench coat. And phrenology. Yes, he has phrenology painted on his head because he thinks he is a perfect, like, racial specimen. He is the avatar of racism. And he is a fascinating character to talk to. The developers here were making a very conscious takedown of a steel-manned version of racism. You talk to this avatar where he explains to you in detail why racism is good in his eyes. And the really interesting thing is because Disco Elysium is an alternate world, they have alternate races. They still have the concept of whiteness and blackness, but the races are completely different because it's a completely alternate history. He talks about like Seminese. He talks about the people from Grodd. He talks about a bunch of races that don't exist in our real world. And because of this, I think it gives you a unbiased version of this. If you were to talk about actual races, you were to talk about Arab people, Irish people, Russian people, New Zealanders, then then I think you would get a lot of extra baggage that you'd have to sort through. And a lot of people would be unable to try to disassociate themselves from like stereotypes or racist tropes or just cultural associations. But in having it be fictional races, the developers of Disco Elysium are able to disassociate themselves from all of that cultural baggage, and they present to you the racism, the racist, and you go through all of this, and it's just nonsense. That's why they put him in all caps, by the way. Despite being eloquent, they put him in all caps to kind of give you that vibe of someone just mashing the caps lock key. He is insane. He is irrational. He dresses himself up in the features of rationalism, but he is inherently irrational. And I think there's just something really fascinating about that. And you have to engage with them. The game forces you to engage with them to proceed with the story. And you have three options. You find a way to sneak around him. You physically try to best him, which as you can see is very hard. He is very strong. Or three, you have to engage him in a sort of debate. You have to engage with his racial theory. Literally, one of the thoughts is advanced racial theory, where you have to fully inculcate yourself with his ideas. And once you've done that, you can try to argue with him about those ideas. However, there's a risk that you lose yourself by even understanding his perverse thinking in the first place, which is something your partner Kim worries about. I ended up doing this, but then promptly forgetting the thought after dealing with him. But I was stuck with racial dialogue lines for the rest of the game. I just had to not pick them. Except one time I accidentally picked one because it was a slur I didn't recognize. And the guy's like, "Whoa, you're racist." And I'm like, "No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean that. I didn't realize it was a slur. Please forgive me." So he's just a really, really fascinating character. And when you engage with him, he asks you, do you understand the racial enigma? And this racial enigma, that's his way of framing it. But what it actually is hypocrisy. You can confront him at the beginning of like, wait, aren't you black? Why are you so racist if you're black? Isn't racism centered around white supremacy and white people being on top? But if you actually engage with him and you listen to the things you say, you can understand what he calls the race enigma. He believes in classical thinking that white people are at the top of the racial hierarchy. That's obviously, white supremacy. But he believes that the world currently failing under the precipice of moralism or neoliberalism, and the failure of communism to avert that, shows the great failure of white people. Basically, he is a racist who acknowledges that the world has failed, and he blames white people for that. He actually bites that bullet, and his solution is that the second rung of racial identity, which in his case, I think it's Seminoles, I forget, it's whatever he is, his race. He thinks his race is the second tier of race, and that they are the up-and-comers, the underdogs, they are the true racial pinnacle, which is why he does the whole phrenology bit. He is the next tier of racism post-white people. This is his rationalization for hypocrisy. This is a type of rationalization I think you could expect from like a black Israelite or a Hebrew Israelite. There's different versions from. Basically, he is a black supremacist. So I think this makes him an interesting avatar for racism, because the avatar for racism is fundamentally a hypocrite. No avatar could ever be purely pure, right? You might be like, why not have the avatar of racism be a white guy? Well, what if that white guy's a little gay? Okay, well, what if it's a white straight guy? Okay, but what if he has a bit of neurodivergence? Okay, what if it's a neurotypical white straight guy? And like, keep going down the line, you'll find something imperfect, They're always hypocrites to some extent. No one is made in a test tube. So they decided to have a sort of black supremacist be the avatar of racism. And I think this is not dissimilar from how in the real world, a lot of white supremacists are actually Latin. There's a lot of South American white supremacists because a lot of Nazis left and escaped towards like Argentina and places down there. So it's not hard to find a lot of like Ian Miles Chong type of figures or Dinesh D'Souza. Even like right now, Kash Patel, the director of the FBI currently trying to bury the Epstein files, is himself non-white. So I think this is an interesting way to deconstruct racism without having to use a white perspective. Measurehead is genuinely a fascinating character despite being evil. In fact, he's on the side of the Union, and despite being such a racist, answers to the Union boss, even though the Union boss is a white guy. This indicates to me that his posturing is just that, posturing. Maybe he makes an exception because the Union leader's such a great guy or whatever, but at the end of the day, he is a sellout. He is a hypocrite to his own ideology. I think ultimately he is kind of the antithesis to the ineffectual theory-based Marxist. He is the theorist of racism, of the right wing, and as such, he is completely ineffectual. He says some of the most horrid things in this game, but he is less harmful than actual other racists like the mercenaries, because he's all talk. He's 33 mini Hitlers in a trench coat if all of the Hitlers were too nihilist and lazy to do anything about it. So, I think he is very fascinating. I don't love him, but I would want a detailed conversation. Although I kind of don't at the same time. I think I'll put him above Kuno, but Abolo shivers. Yeah. I guess I kind of feel like I would have wanted a detailed conversation, except I already got that in the game, and I am satisfied. I don't want to talk to you anymore, but that talk was good. I liked that talk. I hate you, but I like the talk. Okay, so next we have Renee and Gaston. So Renee and Gaston are BFFs forever. I ship them. Renee is a literal fascist. He supported the suzerain, the king. He was alive in that time. He is an old man, and he thinks that it was a mistake that the revolution ever happened. Gaston is, he claims to be a socialist. He is a member of the Union, and he is a high-ranking member. He writes communist essays. So these two are old men of opposite sides of the conflict, and yet they play, like, basically cricket together. Fantasy cricket. Alternate cricket. In their old retirement, they kind of put their bygones aside and they have fun together, though they talk about it and argue about it all the time. Usually the fascist is instigating the conversation. But in getting to learn about these characters, you find out Gaston is a hypocrite. Gaston is only a member of the Union by name. He is just the ghostwriter. And even then, he just kind of just like meaningless word salad. He doesn't actually believe in socialism. In fact, he literally isn't a socialist. He's a liberal. He doesn't care about the revolution. He helps out like social democrats and doesn't even believe in that. Flowerheart says, random fun fact, Talon was called Revel before 1918. Okay. No offense, it is a little random. Maybe I missed that. You mentioned it earlier when it was relevant. Sorry. But, Gaston is a liberal. He is a fraud, and you can point out this fraud, and Renee is disgusted by this. And I think there's something kind of fascinating with like what these characters represent. Renee is like the principled fascist. He believes fascism on like a principled level because he thinks it will make society better, that it used to make society better. I don't think he would support the Holocaust or like genociding bad people. He just thinks there are certain behaviors that are bad and should not be tolerated, and he thinks a hardcore state would be a good thing. He is kind of its best advocate. Obviously, it's still horrible, the things he believes in. But he genuinely doesn't believe that they will bring about bad outcomes. Gaston, on the other hand, is the liberal counter-argument, and that he is spineless. He's like a Democrat in America. He doesn't believe in anything. He just wants to not talk politics and play balls with Renee. They want to play with their balls together because fundamentally, these two are basically a couple. They squabble like an old married couple. It reminds me of how like a bunch of white girls that are nominally progressive will like hook up with like some of like the most racist white guys you've ever met. And you're like, oh, well, we just don't talk about politics. Like, uh-huh. In this way, I feel like this relationship showcases how liberalism often will become buddies with fascism, anything to not be really socialist. They will sell out socialism while secretly having an affair with the fascist. Scratch a liberal and a fascist bleeds. That's the old saying. So I think these two characters are really interesting, and I think I need to rank them accordingly. I want a detailed conversation with them. Now, how high do they go? Honestly, I have to put them above Measurehead. I'm still going to give Shivers some detail because I'm really interested in Shivers. I'll give them a preference, I mean. So the question is, which of these two do I put more? I'm going to be honest. I know this is going to look bad, but I think I'm going to put the fascist higher than the liberal. Now, I don't think fascism is actually more preferable than spineless, ghoulish liberalism. I would never prefer a Republican over a Democrat, like a politician. But as a character, as a human being, I respect the principle that Renee has more than the spinelessness of Gaston. There's a loss when Renee dies. And it's not that I think it's better to have a principle in something bad than not to believe anything. Or actually, maybe that is it. He believes in something bad, and that is bad. That there's no getting around that. But sometimes I think not believing in anything is actually worse. Not all the time, but with these two characters, I think that. Gaston has a position where he could do a lot of good, and he never does. Renee benefits from him. It's kind of like, in the American political system, there is a certain mode of analysis where you could say, even though the Republicans are actually worse, you could argue maybe Democrats are the real evil because they allow the Republicans to exist. Likewise, in Fallout New Vegas, Caesar's Legion are the obvious threat, but are maybe not the NCR more guilty because they allow the Legion to exist? Just in their own like incompetence and inadequacy? Kira says when Renee dies, the last thing he said to Gaston... Oh, yes, I forgot to mention. So when Gaston dies, he dies in... when Renee dies, he dies in Gaston's arms. They have this, like, tragic couple moment where, like, Renee is dying, having a heart attack, and Gaston's like, no, you're my best friend. He says his final words, you're my best friend, man. I'm going to... I forget the exact words, but you're my best friend. I'm going to love you. I'm going to miss you. And Renee's last words are, F you. Because he never cared about him in return. I've been calling them a couple, but it's like a one-way relationship. The liberal loves the fascist. Can't we all just get along and get unity? And Renee's like, I do not care about you. I hate you. In fact, Renee is basically like, I loved you when I thought you were a principled communist. Now that I know you're a useless, spineless Democrat that just fawns over me, I hate you. I have never cared about you. You are nothing to me. And so Gaston's love, his life, has been wasted dealing with this guy. Basically, I'm going to say Renee is an idealized version of Donald Trump that does not exist. And Gaston is like a worse Joe Biden. Whew, man, I had a lot to say on that. All right, and then we have Avart Claire. This is the leader of the Union. Usually when people meet him, they hate him. He's like a mob boss. He is so obviously corrupt. But the more you learn about him, the more you realize it's a front. He is a left-winger, although specifically he's a social democrat. Maybe he's a socialist secretly, but you can't be an open socialist. If he was an open socialist, you know where he'd be? He would be dead. The moralists would have killed him. So instead, he has this affect of being a very corrupt mob boss. He chooses his words extremely carefully so that legally he's always has plausible deniability, but everyone knows it's corrupt, except that's the act. He appears corrupt because it's better to appear corrupt than to appear communist or socialist even. I don't agree with everything he wants to do. He wants to bulldoze over the pores to like rebuild Revachol. And I think rebuilding Revachol is good in theory, but I don't agree with bulldozing over the poor people. But despite that disagreement, he does genuinely want to like improve the community. He is effectively the good dictator. I just think he's genuinely really interesting, and in such a hopeless environment where your options are so few, I would want him on my side. I did eventually do that in the game. I let the Union have their way. But regardless, he's just a fascinating character, and I think, I don't know, I can't think of a real world comparison, honestly. I just can't. He is literally one of the best characters ever made. I need to shorten this. There we go. Here we have Klausya. Klausya is the last person who saw the murder victim alive. She avoids you. She deceives you. She is the best liar in the game. In a game full of liars, she is the best liar. She's presented to you as a rape victim, but then you find out, no, she actually consented to have sex with this guy. She didn't mind having sex with a merc. That's where her moral compass is at. She is nihilist. She is a member of the system. She basically was like a CIA type where she was doing corporate espionage and she got burned. So she's on the run. She's sympathetic, but she preys on you having sympathy for her. And like, I didn't want to arrest her. I didn't feel like that was justified given the things that she has gone through. But in choosing to do that, she escaped. And she got to just get away with her crimes. And I'm not satisfied with that. I hated that I got that outcome. But I also knew that arresting her wasn't going to bring about justice. That the moralist would have just basically had her crucified for basically turning against the flock. There is no satisfaction with Klausya. She plays you, basically. And the only way to play her is to be cruel. She is genuinely interesting. I don't love her, though. I kind of hate her. Between Measurehead and Kuno. She lied to me too much. Way too much. But there's a great scene with her where she turns some of your skills against each other and we have a civil war. I had a civil war between my intelligence and psyche skills, which was hilarious to watch. Now we have Joyce. Joyce is the representative of Wild Pines, the big giant corporation, the megacorp, that the Union is a part of. The Union is striking, so she is the opposite part. She is the corporate liaison to represent the company. But despite that, she's very reasonable. Whereas Avart is based, but corrupt and awful, Joyce is the most unbased you could possibly be. She has horrible politics, and yet she's extremely pleasant. It is through her you find out the nature of the Pale and the fractured reality of Disco Elysium, the broader world. But the more you tell her, the more she can use against you. But at the same time, she's still sympathetic. She is an ultra-liberal. In fact, she's kind of one of the few ultra-liberals in the game, because it's kind of a poisonous word. See the political diagram I talked about. When you ask her who she is, she gives you a carefully constructed answer that's not technically a lie, so your lie detector doesn't go off. She says she is the vilest of the vile. She is a class traitor. She would have supported the revolution and then betrayed it. Although in retrospect, with that in mind, she says that maybe she would have supported the king, which is interesting. Regardless, where she is now in life, she has sympathies towards the revolution. And it's so strange because she represents this giant corporation, and yet she feels bad about it. It reminds me of how a lot of billionaires like Rockefeller or Andrew Carnegie in their old lives had a lot of regrets about how they had spent their lives and did a lot of charity to try to make themselves feel better before they died while also whitewashing their legacy. She's kind of like that. She's older in her life. And even when she was young, she has that kind of slumming it with the poor's type of mentality. She loves Revachol. She's just a very fascinatingly complex character. And you find out she has pale contamination. So her sympathies with the revolution, are they genuine? Is it just that she has a soft, like, socialist heart despite being a class trader, despite being in the upper class, a corporate stooge? Or is it just that in her older life she's having regrets? Or is it pale contamination? She has literally experienced the perspectives of other people, some of them revolutionaries, and therefore has no choice but to sympathize with those perspectives. Like if you could forcibly put some communist that died's memories into her brain, that's kind of what she's experienced. And then at the end of the game, you find a reveal. If you're smart enough, I've seen some people that never found this out. She isn't a representative of Wild Pines. She is Wild Pines. She is a member of the board. She lied. Because everyone important in this game lies to you. She is a member of the board with regrets that has come to the actual situation and posed as a representative of herself. In the game, what I chose to do is I just asked her, back off. Let the Union do its thing. If you really care about the revolution, if you really have sympathies, give this a chance. And she does. She actually does. She backs off. She tells them to back off. She listens. It's so strange. It's like, yeah, you're dealing with generally a sympathetic evil person. Like, to use a Nazi analogy, it would be like if you're talking to a member of Hitler's cabinet that thinks they went too far. Like, she is a monster. But she knows it. She goes at the top. Tippy top. All right, next we have the cryptozoologist pair. So you have the cryptozoologist here, and you have his wife. You meet the wife first. She is a quadriplegic. She is disabled. And she is just so lovable and sweet. When you're homeless, she is there for you. She has your back. She is a cinnamon roll of a character. But she has an interest in cryptozoology due to her husband. He actively seeks out these fictional creatures, and you can ask about them. And it's wacky stuff, right? It is so wacky. They believe in like a fiery rhinoceros, a seven-eyed eagle, just insane things that are extremely unlikely to exist. So you engage with this game, and your partner Kim here is like, oh, these people are like, I'm trying to think of another word besides insane. Sorry. They are. What's a word for like a fake person? I'm having trouble thinking of an alternative synonym. Quack. They're quacks. Yeah, that's what it is. But you eventually, later on in the game, finally get to meet her husband, the cryptozoologist. And you talk to him, and I challenged him. I'm like, okay, come on, there's no way this stuff is true. And he retorts. And his retort is, there have been 2 of these cryptids that have actually been discovered. That's a success rate of 0.03% out of the however many thousands there were. He is not delusional. He tells you he knows the odds are against him. They're currently looking for this Insulindian phasmid, a giant stick bug that pretends to be a reed. He knows the odds of it being real are extremely low, just like he does with all of them. But he continues anyway because he believes someone should look for it. He believes that someone out there should still pursue these dead leads to see if maybe some of them might be true. And I have so much respect for that. The idea that he knows it's a wild goose chase, but he still does it because there's still that chance. That chance. It's so respectable. And part of the reason he thinks this is the one to bet on is because it's one his wife saw in person. She has a testimony, a confirmed sighting. And that's what brought them together. That's what their love is shared over, the possibility of this thing being real. But they're not delusional about it. This is the best case for a cryptozoology. I remember when I was young kind of being into that type of stuff. Like, oh, what if, just what if? It'd be cool. And that is what these people are. And I got so much respect for him. It is unfortunate he doesn't realize his partner is a crypto-fascist, which is very different from a cryptozoologist. It's kind of funny, but I don't hold that against him. He's not... That politics is not his realm. Cryptids is. And he is remarkably respectable in the field of cryptids. And I'm going to give a huge spoiler. I'm spoiling the game now. Big spoiler. It's real. He finds it. He actually finds it. Well, technically you find it, but thanks to him, thanks to both of them. You find the actual phasmid in the game. So I'll probably circle back to it, but you have this whole finale of the game, and it's like, man, what's even the point of this? What's even the point of life? Everything is so bleak. But the point of Disco Elysium is that even when things are bleak, you should have hope. And right when everything looks the bleakest, something new is discovered in this world. A 10-foot tall giant stick bug disguised as a reed with hallucinogenic effects, and you get to talk to it with Inland Empire. The stick bug is utopia. It is the stick bug of destiny. It is true communism. In the game, Rhetoric tells you communism is about failure. It's about learning to deal with failure and to move on. Rhetoric calls you the last communist. The stick bug, the Insulindian phasmid, survived 4 different regimes for 400 years, and no one even noticed it was there. What other truths, what other things that could be, have always been possible and just not been noticed? What else can become known? What else can become real? That is what the phasmid represents. The phasmid is the thesis of Disco Elysium. These people have to go high. They have to go high. They're definitely I love you tier. How much do I love them? Honestly, because they represent the main thesis, I have to put them above the skills. I'm going to put the phasmid above the other two. I'm going to put him above her. She's lovely. He is the cryptozoologist, though. Okay. That's where I'm at with these folks. Yes, I love the bug. Deal with it. 2 people left. Let's do him first. I need to talk about Juros. And again, we're in spoiler territory. You find at the end of the game... You know what? Before I move on, let's hear the phasmid talk. I just want to show this off, honestly.
From you, banner-like, blossom from you and carry you apart in the sky feel wrong. In honor of your passing, But not me, because I'm just a leaf eater.
It's hard to even see them until they move, by the way, because they blend in with the reeds.
In honor of your will, Lieutenant Euphrator, that you kept from falling apart in the face of sheer terror, day after day, second by second. Detective, arriving on the scene.
For thousands of years, I dithered, out of sight, trapped myself in greenery. No one believed I exist. Almost no one. Until you came, Detective. Dripping off blood that smells like strawberries. Across the calm sea. The first in 1,000 ways.
I am not ashamed to admit I cried. But now we're going to talk about the next character, Dross. Okay, this is low quality, but I'll deal with it anyway. I think they've cut out a snippet of his speech. We'll see which part they picked.
It was real. I'd seen it. I'd seen it in reality. The mask of humanity fall from capital. It has to take it off to kill everyone, everything you love. All the hope and tenderness in the world. It has to take it off just for 1 second to do the deed. And then you see it as it strangles and beats your friends to death. The sweetest, most courageous people in the world. You see the fear and power in its eyes. Then you know that the bourgeois are not human.
Okay. So, let me get another clip. All right. So, in the game, you're searching for who killed the mercenary, who killed Lely. And there's so many wild directions. It's a really great detective game, so I am doing a major spoiler here. Dross is the killer. He is the correct answer. You eventually find out that there was a holdout from the communist revolution, like one of the Japanese stragglers of World War II. He is still fighting the fight decades later. He never surrendered. But he's called the deserter because on the day of the massacre, he hid. He wasn't killed. He didn't fight on the last stand like most of the communists did. They believed that hard that they did, and he believed. But he had a moment of what he calls cowardice. You might just call fear. And so he survived the massacre, and he's been on this island. He is one of the most interesting characters. And okay, there is a detail of his character I am going to leave out. I am going to put that aside for now because you only discover that if you dig in deeper. So I didn't know it at first for a while. And with that detail aside, he is one of the most justifiable characters in the game, in my opinion. He is very based, and he is tragic, and I kind of weep for him. He represents a better world, a world we could have had, a world he fought for. He's an ideological communist. He supported the revolution, but he was 16 at the time. He was young, but the world he lived in was terrible, and so he fought when he was young for a better world. And when that's failed, he's just lived here, stubborn, yes, but refusing to give in. He saw them murder the anarchists after. He saw Revachol be pillaged. He saw decades go by of capitalists dancing on the corpse of Revachol, of plundering it for resources. Even now, the city's never been really rebuilt. And he watches all of this through a sniper scope. You find out, yeah, he's a killer. He has killed people, but he has justifications for the people he's killed. It's implied he killed Lillian's boyfriend because he was a drunkard, he was unfaithful, he saw him doing bad things and decided to take him out. There are other people he's taken out. He was asked by Avart to take out this like ineffectual political person, and he did so. He regrets doing it because he thinks Avart is extremely corrupt. It's a bit of a complicated political situation to get into. I won't fully defend that. But I think you can understand why someone from his perspective feels that way, because he got a glimpse of a better world. That clip I showed earlier talks about the one time those moralists intervened. The face of capital, the bourgeoisie. He hates you because you represent the moralists. You're a cop literally working for the moral intern. Some people hate Dross because he accuses them of being a pedophile. Oh, sorry, a pedo. I should be careful with my language. But like, you're a cop. Cops protect the interests of the bourgeoisie. Like, it is literally your job. And, what's that song that Bo Burnham said? How the World Works? The global nature of capital only functions to separate the workers from the means of production, and the FBI killed Martin Luther King. Private property is inherently theft, and neoliberal capitalists are destroying the left. It's a known thing that, like, the pedo corporate elite are protected by the cops. They are the bulwark of that. So I don't blame him for treating you that way. I tried to be a good cop, an unrealistically good cop, a communist cop. And, you know, the cops in Disco Elysium are a bit different from cops in real life. They have communist origins, right? But I don't blame him for being against me. You're a cop. That comes with the duty, you know? People think that cops deserve respect, and just like, you literally have more rights than I do. That should come with extra responsibility. It is your job to deal with crap. Deal with it. Deal with people being a little mean. Okay, sorry, I'm rambling. Sorry, I'll stop. Anyway, Dross also is an old man. So casual homophobia and sexism, I kind of just took that for granted. I didn't like it, but you know, I don't think era of their time is a good excuse, but it helps me understand, you know. And he comes from a time where, I shouldn't say it out loud, but we'll just say this term was used, and this term was used to conflate actual pedo stuff with homophobia. And so when you're talking to him, he uses the same term to refer to both. It can make understanding what he's saying a bit confusing. That is the point of the word, to combine these two things. Combining queer issues, queer people, queer rights with child predation is a tactic as old as time. He even talks about how the commune legalized it. And I think some people might misinfer and like, oh, are you saying the commune was pro-pedo? No, it's old man language. He's saying that the commune legalized gay marriage, which I think is actually really interesting. So, it's like, okay, rough around the edges, has latent bigotries, not ideal, but was supporting a very base cause. And so he kills this fascist mercenary. He sees this fascist mercenary going down on this woman, having sex with her. And he likes that woman. And he hates seeing this fascist go with her. He also kind of hates her for going along with it. It feels like a betrayal. He felt things for her she couldn't possibly have known, but he gets so overcome with emotion, seeing her through his scope, his sniper rifle, seeing her being with him, that he shoots him and kills him. And I don't think this is like unethical in itself, right? Like, he looks at a scope to just see the world, see things in public. It's not his fault that they were having sex in front of a open window that he could see through. However, you find out that this was not like some of his other killings, at least for all we know. This was very personally motivated. He wanted her to suffer. He wanted her to be traumatized because of that. And considering she's kind of evil, I don't entirely care, I guess, but I don't, he didn't know that, you know? Also, and this is the detail I was putting aside earlier, you find out he's actually straight up a peeping Tom. He has snuck into the city at times, and one of the things he has done is he has peeped on her, watching her have sex. So he got off on spying on her, and it was just her being with this guy particularly that was the straw that broke the back type of thing. That was the deal breaker. And so I think this character is really interesting, but there's a very compromised part of the character. But I want to say I think when we talk about different levels of like sex crimes, we have to be specific. Rape is obviously bad. And I think rape is like one of those truly evil things that there's no possible justification for it, right? But less than that, you have sexual assault, sexual harassment, or just being a creep or a sex pest, right? One of those things is being a peeping Tom. You violate consent, but you are just a voyeur. You are just watching. This is a sex crime. This is not tolerable, but it is not as bad as like straight up rape. I think that distinction is clear. So this does hamper how I view this character, but I still just can't help but view the character as someone who was morally righteous and has withered over time and stewed in his own hatred. His hatred is justified. His hatred is based. He has good reason to hate the capitalists that destroyed his world and their descendants that have lived in it and reveled in it. People like her, people like Klasia, people like Lely, the mercenary. He is right to hate these people, but that hatred is killing him. The hatred is destroying him, and the hatred leads him to do these reprehensible acts. He should not be killing people. He should not be peeping on people. But my heart bleeds. My heart bleeds for this guy. And maybe you could say that's a flaw with me, but I don't think so. He's a fascinating character. He is one of the best characters of all time. I have to put him above Claire. The question is Joyce. Joyce is also a monster. And I really want to say that his sex crimes make him less interesting than Joyce. But Joyce is a mass murderer. She just doesn't do it directly. She literally brings the mercs to the equation. Look, I'm sorry. This is the political heart in me. I have an interest in politics. He's too interesting. Even the sex crimes just give me more to talk about with him, as reprehensible as they are. He's also the killer of the main quest in the game. You spend the whole game chasing this guy down long before you even know his name. And then we have one person left. Kim Kitsuragi. Best of Kim. Let's get some good moments of Kim.
A shady-looking girl in her late teens or early 20s kneels on the ice with...
What do you mean by party?
Yes. What do you mean? Yeah, man.
I mean drunks. We should also get drugs.
Got any dope? We need some dope bad. I got the Boogie Street chicks.
Is he making fun of you?
He's really shaking and everything.
Trying to score some dope, man. Trying to score some smack. You got any?
What?
What's smack?
The D, man. Gotta hit that D.
What's
I have never heard this
the
line.
D?
Diamorphine, girl. Quit cloning. We need a hookup for that D.
Diamorphine? But that hasn't been around for years. 5 or more. Like 7 years, maybe. Everybody just does hunch now.
Without you noticing, the palm of the young woman's hand rises to greet your nose.
Really? What's that?
Hunch is like 10 times stronger than dimorphine and way more lethal. I think the name is B-hydroxy something.
B-hydroxyphenothiazine. Somewhere in the soggy remains of your factual memory. You know the name. From the streets.
Okay. That's real bad. Someone should definitely look into that. We're from the police, by the way.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, okay. So he was trolling. Let's find maybe something a bit more representative of Kim Kitsuragi rather than him trolling a girl about drugs.
This is a cool moment. It needs a cool thing to be said.
What?
Let's rock with
What
our...
did you say? You're still not saying it right. It's too late now.
The old woman shakes her head.
Okay, so you can probably tell one of the really cool things about Cop is he's kind of a no-nonsense cop. He is the dead man to your comedy routine. And he just kind of rolls with everything. He's kind of the perfectly designed companion character, in that if you're playing the straight man, he'll be your buddy cop right there to back you up. But if you're playing a wacky person of any shape or form, he's there to kind of be the dead man to bounce off of your humor. And he just rolls with it, and he rolls with it sometimes in really hilarious ways. Oh, this is another good line. This is another good line. I have to do this one.
The lieutenant.
So this is after you literally play a, tabletop game with him, okay? There's a tabletop game in the bookstore. You could play it with him, and he beats you. He beats you hard, at least every time I played.
Nods gravely as you erect tariffs against his apricots and sugar. This is going to get ugly. With every turn, tariffs are raised until neither you nor the lieutenant are producing any income or generating resources for the suzerain. Even in the best of cases, it's impossible to really win a trade war. But this is far from the best case, and the lieutenant's apricot-powered economic engine crushes yours. Soon, your coffers are empty, and the map lies strewn with your worker tokens.
I hope you learned your lesson. Never fuck with Kim Kitsuragi.
You go, man. You go, man. Ideologically, Kim is a bit of a puzzle. He says he doesn't really know what to believe in anymore. All he knows is he believes in Revachol. He believes in the RCM, the police force. This makes him kind of a character that operates in flux. He is Seal, which is kind of the alternate world version of Asian. Or Chinese, maybe? I'm not sure. But he is a minority. So he is obviously anti-racist. He doesn't like racists. He does have principles, but he doesn't really lean with a specific ideology. He considers himself a moralist because the RCM is a moralist institution, but he has no love of the moral intern. This is just kind of the ideology he has settled with. It is the one he has a background in. Also, he plays this down at first, but he is a DeLorean. He is religious, and he is this world's version of a Christian. But it's just not a big part of his life. It seems to be like something that helps keep him going, keep him motivated. I played the game as a communist, or in the world's version, a Mazovian socioeconomist, or economist, whatever. And he's willing to roll with that, but he doesn't fully subscribe to it himself. But despite that, he's a loyal partner that has your back the whole way. I don't feel like he would roll with fascism. He doesn't go with racism, so I bet you that would be his line. But if you go on like your grind set and hustle as an ultra-liberal capitalist, he will also roll with that too, though he rolls his eyes a lot, just like if you're a communist. Unfortunately, I think we can say that Kim is not the most based person out there, doesn't have the greatest political instincts, but as a person, as a human being, he always has your back. He is there. He will save your life. And he's also just a great character. Like, I showed you some of his funny lines. He's normally deadpan, but when he says something, he can be absolutely hilarious. I love Kim. And the role he takes in the story as your partner, he is the only companion almost everyone will get throughout the game. There's like maybe one or two more. I don't know all of them, but most people only ever get Kim. But he's all you'll ever need. Kim is obviously a great character. He is one of the best characters ever made. And this is something that someone in chat alluded to previously. There is a reason. There is literally a halo in his portrait. He is the platonic ideal of the good cop, of the cop that genuinely has your best interests in mind. In so doing, he is unrealistic. No cop will ever be as nice, as good, willing to roll with it while having lines that obviously unethical behavior. He doesn't support corruption. He doesn't like bribes. He doesn't like it when you drink and act a fool. He has simple morals I think most people can agree with. And on politically based subjects, like being a communist, he's willing to hear you out. He rolls with it. He is your partner. He is your buddy. He is your life partner. If you ship Harry and Kim, I understand. He is one of, if not, the best character ever made. He has a halo for a reason. Kira says, the first thing you find out about him, if there was an attack right now, you have no doubt this man would throw himself in harm's way to save you. You have no doubt about this. And he does. Kim is the best character in this game, hands down. I could talk about Dross for 10 hours, and I could not do the same for Kim. But I don't need to. I don't need to talk about him. It's self-evident. Play the game and you'll see if my speaking has not been enough to convince you. These are alternate forms of characters. I won't consider them. Is there a way to add more? I don't think there are. There are two other characters that aren't here because they don't have pictures. Your ancient reptilian brain and your limbic system. They're kind of like the skills, except they're even more fundamental. Limbic system, I would put right below Roy. An ancient reptilian brain goes right between the Lena and conceptualization. Your ancient reptilian brain is so hard on you, and you deserve it. You deserve it. This is how I feel. We have Kim at the top, followed by Dross, Joyce, Ivart, and then we have the I love you characters. We have the I wanted a detailed conversation with, have a beer with, who are you? And then actively despise with Lily at the bottom. Wait, that's not right. No, I made a mistake here. Yes, with this guy at the bottom, the most evil merc at the bottom. There we go. Okay, this has been me talking about Disco Elysium. Thank you all for taking part in it. Between the Homestuck drama and this, I went way longer. Wow. Oh my goodness. We're supposed to play Minecraft, and we only have less than an hour to do so. I think I'm going to have to change the plans on that and cancel Minecraft. Kira, I know you're listening. We normally play Minecraft together. You don't want to just do it for an hour, right? So I think I'm going to end stream a little bit early because I put so much more vocal effort into it. I hope you guys appreciate that. I guess I'll retroactively change the stream title to not include the Minecraft bit. I hope you guys thought this was fun. If you guys listen to me talk about the drama, I hope you approach with an open mind. And if you listen to the Disco Elysium stuff, I love you. Thank you for watching, and I hope you all have a good day.